Others either awaken the nine heavens' divine thunder or cast wizards' forbidden spells, while I can only earn $1 by going to the bathroom. So everyone mocks me? And the school's beauty girlfriend decisively breaks up with me. But what they don't know is that the dollar I got doesn't specify what kind of currency it is. The 5 emperors' money of communication, condensing the luck of the human race in the world, summoning the virtual shadows of the 5 emperors, the 5 elements ghost money, summoning the deceptive gold, evil wood, drowning, burning, and mountain deception, all at my disposal, and my conceptual skills refresh once a day. When combined with a 100% kill of Zhang Wei and the ability to modify anyone's name, the aliens invading the Blue Star panicked. Class 3-2's Yunfeng, please step forward and awaken. At this moment, the Elder Awakening called out my name. After a brief exchange, I looked at the awakening door in front of me, took a deep breath, and then placed my hand on it directly. All the crystals on the awakening gate lit up, and they had a huge attraction force. My body and the awakening gate seemed to be like 2 magnets, unable to escape from the strong attraction force. Everyone present was equally surprised. After all, they were all seeing this situation for the first time. However, at this moment, the Gate of Awakening suddenly shot out a beam of light, reaching the sky. Dazzling blue light spread from a starting point in an instant, illuminating the entire campus in the blink of an eye. The sky-reaching pillar of light is so awe-inspiring that everyone is eagerly anticipating the old man's next words. I also couldn't contain my excitement in my eyes, but under the eager eyes of the crowd, the old man's face became extremely confused, looking around at the anomalies, carefully feeling the message coming from the Awakening Gate. After confirming that I did not sense it wrong, the old man looked at me with a hint of regret in his eyes, but the initial enthusiasm and excitement were gone. Yunfeng, the lowest level F-class superpower, can earn $1 every time he goes to the toilet? Everyone laughed when this was said. Mr. Chen, stop kidding around. How could Yunfeng possibly be an F-level superpower? Mr. Chen, you're really funny. The crowd clearly didn't believe what Mr. Chen had said, and they all laughed and joked. But Mr. Chen didn't respond to the crowd. His expression remained the same. The once laughing crowd suddenly fell silent. However, Mr. Chen did not say anything. I also felt the power hidden in my body, and I was not feeling well at all. Chen on the stage side. Child, you shouldn't have too much psychological pressure. After all, even those with good talent cannot awaken all good abilities. All the classmates, parents, and journalists looked without any reaction, their eyes filled with strangeness. Although no one made any sarcastic remarks, most of them looked gleeful and pleased in their eyes. After all, there is nothing more satisfying than seeing a genius fall. After I sat down in the rest area and looked at Lu Ruyan beside me, I was about to say something, but I saw a look of disgust on Lu Ruyan's face. Is this where you should be sitting? Who allowed you to sit next to me? I was stunned after hearing these emotionless words, and a forced smile appeared on my face. Ruyan, you're joking again. But before I could finish my sentence, I saw a figure approaching me. Get lost, a level F ability user. How dare you sit next to Ruyan? The newcomer is Xiang Kaishan. Seeing the other party like this, I naturally won't be polite. Ruyan is my girlfriend. What's wrong with me sitting next to her? But after these words came out, the next second, I widened my eyes. At this time, Lu Ruyan had already stuck to Xiang Kaishan's body. When did I become your girlfriend? Toad wants to eat swan meat. After speaking, Lu Ruyan, without any scruples, hugged Xiang Kaishan's neck in front of everyone and started kissing passionately. At this moment, I could feel the blood in my body heating up rapidly, and in an instant, I lost all rationality. Dog man and woman. Stepping forward a few steps, he directly swung his fist and smashed towards the two. However, the fist had not yet landed on the opponent's body. A purple lightning flashed, and I only felt my body twitch before collapsing to the ground. Before fainting, I vaguely heard the discussions of the onlookers, awakening this kind of superpower. I don't know where this face came from. By the time I woke up again, it was already evening, and I found myself back in the rental house off campus. My fists were clenched white, and the door lock of the rental house also rang at this time. Oh, isn't this our genius Yunfeng from the college? Is my superpower comfortable? If I wasn't afraid of a bad influence, you would be dead by now. After hearing this, a surge of anger ignited in my heart, but it quickly subsided. What are you here for? Where is that despicable woman? Lu Ruyan? Seeing me still so tough, Xiang Kaishan immediately smiled contemptuously as if reminiscing about something. Now in my house lying on the bed, she wants me to come over to help her take away what belongs to her. This word out I was instantly disheartened. Also do not care how Xiang Kaishan taunted, closed his eyes directly lying on the bed. After a long time, Shiru Yan packed up things in bundles and said to Kaishan who was looking at me at this moment, Yunfeng, We were classmates once. Here is my final advice to you, those who act recklessly will face consequences. You, as a weakling, are no longer worthy of competing with me. After hearing the sound of the door closing all along, I finally opened my eyes. After feeling the superpower inside my body, I thought for a moment and decided to get up and go to the bathroom. Even though one's ability is such, one can't be afraid to go to the bathroom because of that ability. After painfully resolving his physical needs, Yunfeng suddenly felt as if his superpower had triggered. You get $1 for every time you go to the bathroom, but the money doesn't say what it is. With that thought in mind, Yunfeng quickly had an idea inside his mind. It's not like you're missing anything by experimenting anyway. Immediately, he said directly, I want the psychic 5 Emperor's coins. In the next second the flashy light was so bright that a small black hole appeared in front of Yunfeng's eyes, and through the black hole, Yunfeng saw a sight he would never forget in his life. The blood moon hung, shedding a dreamlike light. The moonlight is like water, sprinkled on the ancient stone bridge, and the flowing water on the bridge gurgles, as if telling the vicissitudes of 1,000 years. On the banks of the long river, exotic flowers and plants grow, emitting a strange fragrance. Flowers and plants seem to have their own consciousness, and as time passes, they gradually grow, open up, wither, and then start again, like the cycle of time. And in the midst of the turbulence of the long river, a small golden ancient copper coin was swept straight down into the black hole. It appeared in front of Yunfeng. Along with the ancient copper coins, the black hole disappeared in front of Yunfeng's eyes, and Yunfeng looked at the ancient copper coins on the ground that carried the aura of countless years, his heart bursting with ecstasy. His own guess was actually correct. Psychic 5 Emperor's Money. This was a novel that Yunfeng had read in his previous life. In it are recorded the uses and greatness of this money. But according to the description inside the novel, because the protagonist and the enemy fierce battle, cause this psychic 5 Emperor money lost in the river of time. I didn't think I could actually get it by making a casual remark. It is believed that the Tongling 5 Emperor's money was the first currency issued in the ancient times when the 5 emperors ruled the world together. It unites the world's human qi and fortune. As long as you place it around you, the power of qi will come in a steady stream. Even in times of life and death crisis, the psychic 5 Emperor's money can summon the 5 Emperor's shadows to protect their lives and cut down their enemies with the source of their qi. At least the male lead in the novel who got this coin was so against all odds. Although the psychic 5 Emperor's money had gone through countless washes inside the river of time, Yunfeng could still feel the qi fortune contained within. For a while, Yunfeng didn't even know what would be more appropriate to say. What he had awakened was a superpower. It was clearly a conceptual technique. Chapter 4 I'm sorry, you're an F. Safe house standards are not met. After picking up the psychic 5 Emperor's money on the ground, Yunfeng instantly felt a metaphysical aura that continuously strengthened his body. The whole person was more than 100 times more refreshed. Even Yunfeng could feel that there were countless breaths in all directions, constantly surging into the psychic 5 Emperor's money. Is this the legendary luck? After feeling the changes around him, Yunfeng's entire body became excited. It had all been thought that life was bleak. Now with this kind of conceptual technique, it might not be impossible to bend the road and ruthlessly hit that pair of dogs in the face. With that thought in mind, Yunfeng directly placed his gaze on the bathroom not far away, then ran right in and squeezed a little hard out. I want stellar energy coins. I want the 5 elements ghost transportation money. After Yunfeng went to the toilet twice in a row, he suddenly felt a palpitation. After feeling it carefully, he realized that he was already sweating profusely at this point, and his body was even weaker. After realizing this, Yunfeng also knew that this skill didn't seem to be able to be used at will. It's just a shame to have all those memories inside your head. He's still thinking about the treasure-gathering copper coins in the hands of the god of fortune. But even so, Yunfeng was already happy. As long as one rests well, when the time comes to straighten out some more treasures over, it's not a thing at all. Lying on the bed, looking at the 3 coins in his hand, Yunfeng didn't know how to speak for a while. 5 Elements of Ghost Money is from a spooky novel, and the effect is very simple. But thieves are practical. That is to drive invisible energies and drive the trickster to attack or protect. And the 5 elements correspond to the 5 shenanigans. Yaojin shenanigans, Evilwood shenanigans, Drowning shenanigans, Stormfire shenanigans, and Mountain shenanigans. Each has abilities that are uniquely their own. It's just a shame that a coin can only be used once. And finally the Stellar Energy Coin, which is the top currency from inside a science fiction novel. A coin made by compressing a living star by supreme means. This coin was the topmost existence whether it was used for trading or cultivation. Having stellar energy coins was equivalent to having a huge rechargeable treasure that helped it cultivate all the time. Lu Ruyan, Xiang Kaishan, you guys wait. Clutching the 3 coins tightly, Yunfeng directly looked for a rope to string them after. Yunfeng also sat down and then began to cultivate the meditative thoughts that every citizen would cultivate. Only this time, the cultivation was completely different from the past days, and Yunfeng could clearly feel his physical body and spirit improving. However, just as Yunfeng was cultivating and settling down, a slight vibration suddenly came from the ground. It made Yunfeng awaken from his cultivation all of a sudden. The next second, a sharp warning sounded over the city. After hearing this voice, Yunfeng's face instantly changed and he hurriedly came to the window. After seeing the scene outside, Yunfeng did not hesitate in the slightest and directly flew downstairs before heading straight to the safe house. But what Yunfeng did not expect was that after going downstairs, Yunfeng saw an even more shocking scene, only to see countless foreigners, who had somehow already appeared inside the city at this time, was frantically slaughtering the humans around him. Damn! How did these things bypass the alarm? Yunfeng's eyes were slightly lowered as he looked at the streets filled with blood and killing, and for a while, he was all a bit at a loss for words. Although it had been 18 years since he came to this world, it was the first time he had seen this kind of situation. Although he was extremely angry at the alien massacre, he couldn't do much at this time. After all, his superpowers or conceptual techniques aren't much of a combat type. It had 3 coins, but that thing was a lifesaver. After pondering for a moment, Yunfeng still chose to run from his heart. After all, a little life is important, and there is still a tall one to hold the roof when the sky falls. But the road to escape wasn't so smooth. Feathers, demons, orcs, countless races were slaughtering inside the city with abandon. There's a human over there. Brothers go! Accompanied by a hiss, Yunfeng's heart trembled as he turned back to look at the bull-headed orc that was running not far away. Yunfeng's legs went faster, but it hadn't been running for more than a few minutes before it was blocked straight away. After taking a deep breath, he looked at the 3 minotaurs around him, and the whole thing went bad. Inwardly, I felt more or less sorry for the coins that I had only just gotten after all. It's going to be used now. Looking at the huge axe it wielded, Yunfeng was just about to activate the 5 elements ghost transportation money. However, a bright light flashed, and the movement of Yunfeng's hand directly stopped, only to see that the minotaurs that had originally surrounded and attacked themselves had all fallen to the ground at this point, their heads falling off, and even their eyes flickering with excitement inside. The light flashed by too fast. Yunfeng didn't even get a clear look at who the visitor was. He just saw a white-haired and absolutely beautiful back. Combined with the information already available, Yunfeng instantly thought of someone. That was none other than the rank 9 superpower stationed in Star City. Bai Ruoi, a rank superpower, light elemental mastery. Soon Yunfeng's thoughts were verified, only to see that Bai Ruoi was already hovering over the city at that moment, and was confronting a figure. Only the current Yunfeng had no time to care. Looking at those foreigners in the distance, Yunfeng didn't think much and once again ran towards the safe house. And when Yunfeng managed to reach the safe house, he also passed the identity test. I was just about to walk in when I saw some familiar faces. Isn't that just the same group of classmates he had? And Ruyan Lu and Xiang Kaishan were among them. I just don't know why or how they were able to get to the safe house at the first sign of trouble. After thinking for a moment, Yunfeng still decided to walk over. Not for any other reason. It just simply feels like it's completely unnecessary to bother with all this male love when you're being invaded. The hate has not been cut back in the slightest. And Yunfeng's approach made his classmates very surprised. Yunfeng, how did you get here by yourself? After these words came out, Yunfeng immediately frowned. After all, that's just too ambiguous. It's hard to believe that they know the message. Seeing Yunfeng like this, Xiang Kaishan also said directly, I didn't think you were good at it, being able to come here in such a short time. If we hadn't been at the party, protected by our teachers, we might not have been as fast as you. After hearing this, Yunfeng was silent for a moment looking at these familiar faces in front of him and walked straight to the safe house without saying a word. But just when Yunfeng wanted to go in, the person who was checking his identity on the side changed his face when he saw Yunfeng's message. Reaching out, he directly stopped Yunfeng outside. I'm sorry, this little brother. Due to the suddenness of the incident, the safe house has to supply newcomers with high superpower levels first, and you, an F rank, are completely out of standard. Chapter 5 Shout out to blah 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 little magic fairy and your whole body changes. You can randomly turn into a certain fictional or anime character. After these words came out, Yunfeng was directly dumbfounded. According to what he had learned, every safe house inside the city sheltered the residents of an area. It is unlikely that there will be a prioritization of supply. The only other possibility is that someone is doing something about it. But who has that much of a burden to actually pull this kind of stunt on the side of the Union's security apparatus? If we get caught, won't we lose our lives? Just when Yunfeng thought of this, not far away, Xiang Kaishan also walked over with the students above his class. Cousin, we'll just go in first. It's not very safe out there after all. Xiang Kaishan even glanced scornfully at Yunfeng after saying this. When some of the students saw this, a little bit of intolerance flashed inside their eyes, but they still didn't say anything. By now, where could Yunfeng not understand why this was? Instantly, he smiled. Only this smile was playful. So much for playing it right. It was a bit interesting, but before they went in, Yunfeng still asked, "Aren't you afraid that someone above the league will check down on you?" Xiang Kaishan sniffed. His footsteps lurched, and then he also smiled and said, "A day ago, I naturally wouldn't have dared to do that, but now you're just a loser. And I'm a genius. Plus my background isn't something you can imagine, so you think I'd be afraid of something like that?" Seeing this, Yunfeng also shook his head and said extremely seriously, "You'll be sorry." This time, without waiting for Xiang Kaishan to speak, Lu Ruyan at his side couldn't wait to step forward. Mockery written all over his face. Regret? Will the divine dragon above the 9 heavens lower its head because of a dog barking by the roadside? Yunfeng, you'd better stop making those unrealistic fantasies. You're not a child anymore. When Yunfeng saw Lu Ruyan standing out, a hint of gloom flashed inside his eyes, but he didn't say anything. Saying more is just lip service and is totally unnecessary. And after seeing Lu Ruyan being so snobbish, he also smiled bashfully. After all, this kind of woman, it's good to see it earlier. After leaving the safe house, Yunfeng arrived on top of the street and looked at the devastation of the city. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly took out the 5 elements luck ghost money. Then he operated his spiritual power and summoned the 5 ghosts. Looking at the 5 creepy creatures that suddenly appeared in front of him, Yunfeng said directly, even after pondering for a moment, "Protect me." With the invasion of the foreigners and the loss of the shelter of the safe house, Yunfeng didn't want to think that when the time came, he would be attacked by the foreigners before he could react. If it led to any accidents, even if it was a waste of 5 elements luck ghost money, it was still better than a sudden and tragic death. But just because you can't stay in a safe house in this area now doesn't mean you can't stay in other areas. Yunfeng still didn't believe that the background in Xiang Kaishan's mouth could repel him anywhere. After thinking about this matter, Yunfeng also shifted towards another area without stopping. Only this time, Yunfeng wasn't that lucky, and although he was still taking the small path, he was still discovered by the foreigners. Of course Yunfeng, who had the protection of the 5 guile, was not very afraid of these foreigners. After all, the power possessed by the 5 guile was completely different from the Fey. Obsidian gold creepy, evil wood creepy, drowning creepy, storm fire creepy, and mountain creepy are creepy things from inside a creepy novel. The powers it possesses are all rules and such. If you don't know anything about weirdness, you can call it rule weirdness, and the sound generated by the engagement naturally caused many people to stare, whether it was the Fey or the superpowered people who were fighting. After seeing these bizarre objects that Yunfeng had summoned, each of them stared wide-eyed. After all, this kind of power was unheard of for them. There are no rules for killing, and resisting doesn't even know how to resist. The air-breathing Fey drowned directly on land. The foreigners who attacked towards Yunfeng's body grew countless sharp swords and died from the chaos of the swords piercing through their hearts. The alien who suddenly burned himself, the alien who suddenly plunged into the earth, and the alien whose entire body was covered with flowers. In fact, it wasn't just the Fey and humans who looked dumbfounded. Even Yunfeng looked dumbfounded. The foreigners that came to him, one by one, died as if they were putting on a show. This led to Yunfeng being in the middle of this battlefield like nobody's business. Funny. When did humans, again, appear such a strong person? Obviously the aura on his body is only level 1. Why does he possess such battle power? An Earth Demon Squad leader couldn't help but ask the winged demon next to him when he saw this scene. And the winged demon, after hearing this question, directly rolled his eyes. How should I know? But one thing is certain. This teenager must be a genius. And I don't know what the higher-ups on the human side were thinking, actually letting such a genius come to the frontal battlefield. As he said this, the winged demon stuck out his own slender tongue and licked his claws before unfolding the wings directly behind him. That's my favorite kind of genius. And the Earth Demon Squad leader next to him turned green when he saw this scene. Damn! Sneaking off again. Save me a leg. Warriors, follow me and kill that human. The commotion over there naturally caught Yunfeng's attention. After seeing the number of visitors, Yunfeng's face turned green. The stellar energy coin was strong, but one did not have the ability to channel the energy it contained within. And even if it could really be channeled, I'm afraid that Blue Star would be destroyed in an instant. As for the Psychic 5 Emperor's money, it was a top-notch fighting force inside the great world of metaphysical fantasy. Although it had experienced countless years of being washed away inside the long river of time, but with its power, Yunfeng was still a bit worried that it would prop up the Blue Star. After thinking of this, Yunfeng also utilized his concept technique once again, but when Yunfeng used it, he was directly dumbfounded. because he was surprised to find that his concept technique seemed to have changed. Yell out blah 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 little magic fairy and your whole body will change. You can randomly turn into a certain novel or anime character and experience it for 3 minutes. After sensing that his conceptual technique had become like this, countless figures immediately appeared inside Yunfeng's mind. It's just a shame that it's not a designated character, or else he'd be high or low to turn into a desolate heavenly emperor for fun. But now it didn't matter what character it was at least better than him. Looking around, he realized that the superpowered people around him were all battling each other, and had absolutely no time for themselves. And Five Guile was also caught up in the heat of battle at this time. After a brief moment of reflection, looking at the foreigners who kept charging at him, Yunfeng took a deep breath. There was so much shame in the gag, but it didn't seem so important in the face of life. Yunfeng directly utilized his conceptual technique, his chi sinking into his dantian as a bright light was released inside his eyes, then let out a loud shout. Blah 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 little magic fairy. Full body transformation. Chapter 6, Martial Ancestor Lindong. Writing the Conceptual God. X rating. The moment Yunfeng finished shouting the slogan, an invisible energy instantly surged inside Yunfeng's body. Then under the watchful eyes of the rushing foreigners, only Yunfeng's entire body was wrapped in a greenish-colored light. Then Yunfeng's body slowly disappeared, and what appeared instead was a completely unfamiliar face. This change caused all of the Fae who had originally charged to freeze in place, completely unaware of what was going on. But the aura of the person in front of him was just too strong. That pressure even made everyone within the battlefield a bit breathless. Among them were Bai Nui and the winged race god king who were fighting furiously in the air. The appearance of this aura was just too sudden. The slightest hint of panic flashed inside the eyes of both assuming that it was the other party's strongest person. But when the light dissipated, a man stood above the ground. His face was resolute, stagnant and majestic, as calm and introspective as a mountain, clad in purple and black robes, standing with his arms folded. And at this moment, Yunfeng was also confused. He himself has invited brother dynamic son, Lindong, to come here. But the transformation, why aren't you in control of this power yourself? Instead, he summoned the present directly. It's just outrageous. This side of the world is somewhat interesting. Boy, you summoned me here just to deal with these foreigners? Yunfeng also said directly after thinking that the transformation time was only 3 minutes. Kid Yunfeng, meet Senior Lindong. Yes, the foreigners have invaded our homeworld, so I'd like to ask Senior to take action and save my clan. Yunfeng's words seemed to remind Lindong of some past events. Immediately, he nodded. I can feel the rejection of this world. I don't have much time to stay. Meeting is fate, so I'll help you once. After speaking, Lindong did not say any more, but a huge golden shadow had suddenly appeared above the sky. The moment the silhouette appeared, heaven and earth changed color, and smoke and sand rose in all directions. Under Yunfeng's gaze, he only saw the silhouette slowly extend a huge finger. After the words that slowly came out of Lindong's mouth, Yunfeng almost couldn't tense up. The martial ancestor deserves to be a martial ancestor, and his strikes are killing moves. Great desolate imprisoning skyfinger. Half a finger shakes heaven and earth, and the human powerhouses who watched the appearance of the shadow had all become numb. Is the sky falling? And what the hell is that teenager? Which you tell me is a level 1 psychic? Really not kidding. Compared to the others, Bai Ruoi and the winged race god king were the most uncomfortable at this time. The body was completely immobile. One can only watch death approach. Seeing that Lindong did not have any thoughts of staying, Yunfeng also hurriedly reminded him. Senior Lindong, please don't kill those innocent people. Lindong nodded slightly and controlled the power inside his body. But even so, the moment that huge finger in the sky fell, the foreigners invading Star City had all turned into blood foam at this moment and blended into the ground. The city was not harmed in the slightest, and the crowd that was originally in the midst of a fierce battle was completely dumbfounded at this moment. Just gone? Are those Fae that weak? The silence was not broken until one man murmured something. Weak? You're afraid you don't know how strong this unknown senior is. I have a feeling that this senior is a cultivator of immortality, and our superpowers are a joke. Fair enough. Lindong naturally heard these words. However, Lindong did not bother with these people's thoughts, but instead said seriously to Yunfeng, there's still some time left. Why don't I go and exterminate a few more foreigners for you? Yunfeng was instantly numb after hearing this, but quickly responded with a direct statement. Elder, those black holes above the sky are the lairs of the 10,000 races. Exterminate whoever you want. As Yunfeng said this, there was clearly a hint of excitement in his tone. Lindong did not say anything more. He just controlled his body, and the entire person instantly disappeared in place, carrying a huge golden shadow. It rushed straight into the black hole where the alien race had appeared. Bai Nuai looked at the disappearing figure and said with an unnatural face, this senior, it seems like he's headed to the enemy's base camp. As if he's still accumulating moves to get there? Is it hard to believe that he wants revenge back? However, right after Bai Noi said this, a few superpowers appeared around her as well. Miss Noi, that man seems to be someone we all recognize. I just looked up his information and he seems to be Yunfeng. The moment this name appeared, Bai Nui instantly reacted. Her beautiful eyes filled with curiosity. He's the Yunfeng who has a 100% affinity for aura, but has only awakened his F-rank superpower? Yes. I've just accessed the surveillance that's still working and determined that this mysterious strongman is Yunfeng. I just don't know why he's so powerful today when he obviously just awakened his superpowers yesterday. Bai Ruoi instantly thought of something after pondering for a while. What is that F-rank skill that Yunfeng awakened? The person beside him, in response to Bai Nuoyi's words, did not hesitate in the slightest, and said it directly. For every time you go to the bathroom, you get $1. After these words came out, Bai Nui instantly froze, then directly blurted out. That means you call this skill F-rank? After the people around Bai Nui heard these words, the slightest bit of doubt flashed inside their eyes. What's the problem? Bai Nui took a deep breath, recalling the memories inside her mind. Her beautiful eyes filled with seriousness. Think carefully, guys. Does this skill say anything about giving any money? What if it's not a federal coin? What if it's a coin from inside various movies and novels? How else can we explain how those 5 Gue appeared by Yunfeng's side? How can we explain how that kind of power that transcends our perceptions appeared? Yes, Bai Nui's words silenced them all, completely unable to argue. After all, she did have a point. Then what do we do now? Yunfeng seems to have left this world at this moment, heading to the foreign race's lair. There wasn't much Bai Nui could do about this, and after sighing, she slowly said, let's first report the situation over here to the Alliance. If there's a chance, it's best to bring Yunfeng back. After all, you all saw his fighting strength just now. We know, but how are we supposed to report it? Is it hard to say that Yunfeng is an F-class superpower? In response to this, Bai Nui said directly after thinking about it. No, this ability of his is no longer a superpower. It's a conceptual ability that far exceeds S-rank me, and I don't even think SSS is his limit. A separate rank should be named for him. One that goes beyond the SSS rank. Conceptual God. Class X. Chapter 7. Imparting the Qingtian Dragon Transformation Decision. Conceptual God. X-rated. After Bai Nui finished saying this, the crowd was shocked. After all, the name is just too big. God. That was one of the titles that only the top powerhouses of the various races were worthy of. The current Yunfeng, just a newcomer who had just awakened, could already be worthy of such a title? However, they didn't question Bai Nui's words. After all, Bai Nui was also a rare genius in the last 100 years. It was still a 9th level powerhouse, fully qualified to say that. Further up, you become a saint. But after saying that, the man on the side became hesitant. Bai Nui instantly realized something when she saw the person beside her squirming so much. What's up? Straight up. After hearing Bai Nui's words, the man then said, we've established Yunfeng's identity, but we also know what happened to him between yesterday when he awakened his superpower and now. I'm a little worried. Bai Nui sniffed and frowned. Explain it carefully. Next, Bai Nui's men also told all about what they had investigated. What with girlfriends betraying them, classmates taunting them, and even traveling to a safe house and being turned away? Bai Nui could be said to be frowning more deeply the more he listened. Bai Nui in the front can still understand. After all, this kind of vain woman is not unheard of. But the latter one, Bai Nui could really be furious. How can there be such a thing as prioritizing the supply of places when the safe houses were built with places reserved for several times the area's population? Have you investigated who did this yet? Even if Yunfeng is an ordinary person without any abilities, he shouldn't be treated like this. Bai Nui's men instantly fell silent for a moment after seeing him so angry. It was the third young master of the Xiang family, Xiang Kaishan, who did it, telling his cousin not to let Yunfeng enter the safe house. After all, this kind of thing is just too good to investigate, and they didn't even cover it up. Bai Nui burst out laughing after hearing this. This matter is also notified up together. Now send a few people. Go and arrest Xiang Kaishan and that woman who loves vanity. All of them. Elder Lin Dong. This is too fierce for you. You're pointing one finger at a tribe. Lin Dong waved his hand after hearing this. You can easily do the same when you reach my kind of strength. And from what I've observed, the upper limit of your world's power system is quite high, even vaguely incomprehensible to me. Especially the power that exists in you is extremely strong. Yunfeng smiled and instantly realized what Lin Dong was talking about. It's a conceptual ability after all. What can't you do if you meet the requirements? And it seems that one's concept techniques are refreshed daily. This is not the case. The martial ancestor was directly called over. It's only 3 minutes long though. Wait, 3 minutes? Yunfeng after thinking of this said directly. Senior Lin Dong, There isn't much time left now. Can you still make a move? Lin Dong felt it carefully before directly shaking his head. I underestimated the combat power of this side of your world before, and now that time is running out. I'll have to send you back later. Can't go back to exterminating other races. Although Yunfeng felt the slightest bit of pity, there was nothing he could do about it. Lin Dong could see Yunfeng's pity, and also smiled slightly as he casually moved the treasure trove of the extinguished foreign races directly with a wave of his hand. He directly pocketed it and brought Yunfeng back to the aquamarine planet. Before leaving, he selected a few items from the treasure trove and handed them over to Yunfeng. And incidentally, he also left a piece of Gongfu inheritance inside Yunfeng's mind. Meeting each other is destiny. You were able to summon me in the midst of these thousands of worlds, so today I will give you an inheritance, and I hope to see you again in the future. Yunfeng was just about to say something when he saw his body change in an instant. The green light dispersed, and Yunfeng's figure began to change, no longer resembling Lin Dong, but changing into his original appearance. All the power contained in the body was also dissipated together in this world, and the dissipation of the power more or less put Yunfeng in a bit of a trance. After experiencing that invincible power, the return to mediocrity is now more or less uncomfortable. However, upon feeling the treasures in his hands and the inheritance inside his sea of consciousness, Yunfeng's entire being was almost bored with laughter. The treasure was inside the Green Vine clan's treasury. There are two in total. A changeable weapon, the Green Vine 1000 machines. The other piece was armor, the Green Vine Heart Protector armor. Without much hesitation, Yunfeng directly put it on his body, then checked up, memorizing the inheritance inside. Qingtian Dragon Transformation Decision. Even Lin Dong was worried that Yunfeng would not be able to find the resources to cultivate, and injected a trace of origin inside Yunfeng's body. It could allow Yunfeng to quickly cultivate and get started. Yunfeng was a bit incredulous, not having thought that a random summon could summon such a character. This luck of his own is just a little too good. Luck, right? Yunfeng said how his luck could be so good. I've got my own psychic 5-digit money. This was a good treasure that could condense chi. Only what Yunfeng hadn't expected was that it was only the second day after arriving, and it was already so outrageous. Just when Yunfeng wanted to use his concept technique again to try to transform into the next protagonist. Instead, he realized that he couldn't seem to unleash his skills. If I forced it, that throbbing that originated from within appeared again. It's as if you release it one more time, you'll die instantly. Seeing this, Yunfeng did not force it to be used. After collecting himself, Yunfeng also looked around. The original foreigners had all disappeared, and even their own 5 shenanigans had been directly shocked to death by Lin Dong along with them. But for this Yunfeng was not very concerned. After all, this thing was originally a disposable item. Now that the crisis was lifted, Yunfeng did not want to continue to stay here. But just as Yunfeng was about to leave, he was directly stopped. Yunfeng fixed his eyes on it. Wasn't it Bai Nui who had saved his life earlier? Only why did Bai Nui's expression look so strange? At this moment, Bai Nui looked at Yunfeng's eyes and knew that her sudden appearance was not very appropriate, but she still said, "You were the one who just protected the entire city, weren't you?" After Yunfeng pondered for a while, he did not deny it and directly nodded his head. Yeah, why? Yunfeng originally didn't want to admit it. After all, his concept technique was too random. Hell, I don't know what kind of skills will show up after tomorrow, but once transformation has been seen, there's no point in denying it. It's better to be honest so that even if the other person has malicious intent, there would also be a certain amount of trepidation about the strength he had just displayed. The most crucial thing was that one had now obtained a part of Lin Dong's inheritance. With steady development and a combination of your concept skills, you can grow up quickly. Chapter 8, Ruyan Lu, huh? Waste to hero. After Bai Nui saw Yunfeng in this state, she also hurriedly said, "I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to thank you on behalf of everyone in the entire Star City." Yunfeng remained on a guard after hearing this. "That won't be necessary. I just did what I had to do. After all, things weren't too good for me at the time." After Bai Nui saw Yunfeng in this state, she knew that the other party might resent it if it went on like this. It was immediately stated, "Regarding your previous encounter, my side has already finished understanding what happened. Don't worry, the Alliance's people will definitely give you an explanation. After all, it's inevitable that some assholes will appear within a power." As these words were said, Yunfeng's face also soothed a lot. After all, being treated that way is uncomfortable for sure. And after seeing the change in Yunfeng's mood, Bai Nui continued, "Finally, I would also like to invite you to join me in my crusade against the Fae." Yunfeng was not repulsed by the woman in front of him, except that he said these things as soon as he came up. Yunfeng wasn't very interested. Immediately, he waved his hand. "I don't have that kind of mind right now. I'm not in a very good mood after all. Goddess White, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Seeing Yun Feng wanting to leave, Bai Nui also hurriedly said, there's one more thing, and that's an interview about you that the people up there notified down and said they'd like to have you for an interview. After all, this was the battle to destroy the city, and you almost single-handedly wiped out all of the foreign races that came to invade. That's a monstrous feat. Yun Feng wasn't very interested in this. After all, it wasn't like there was any benefit. Immediately, he said directly, did the interview do any good? If not, I'm still going to go back to bed. It's not worth it on earth. The sadness that Yun Feng feigned outside of his words made Bai Nui's heart grow uncontrollably. But after thinking about those memories inside his mind, he instantly felt as if it wasn't so. Yun Feng's appearance seemed like he was pressuring them. After understanding this, Bai Nui also said directly, the benefits are surely there, and those who have offended and targeted you will surely be duly disciplined. After seeing Bai Nui's promise, Yun Feng didn't have any plans to leave in a hurry anymore. The duo wandered inside the city filled with blood and broken eaves for a while. Suddenly several figures drove their vehicles and arrived in front of Bai Nui and Yun Feng. And Yun Feng's expression became brilliant when he saw the person on top of the vehicle. Isn't that Ruyan Lu and Xiang Kaishan? And the guards from that safe house? Now this is tied up? However, the instant this thought appeared, Yun Feng realized that it was impossible. Bai Nui beside himself was still standing over here. Who dares to commit a crime? It's important to realize that Noi Bai's nickname is not a misnomer. Her light superpower, combined with her stunning face, earned her the nickname Goddess of Light. Behavior is not considered absolutely righteous, but its approach and full of guidelines human light, so that Bai Ruoi has a high popularity. Of course the main thing is that it is strong and shelters the party. The crowd knew its character. Who dared to provoke it to its face? That's why Yun Feng denied the idea in the first place. Could it be for yourself? As expected, the moment Yun Feng's thoughts rose, Bai Nui on the side was completely devoid of the gentleness she had just shown in front of herself. The face instantly transformed and became incomparably cold. Looking at the tied-up safe house guard, he said directly, when did the safe house have such a rule that prioritized people with high superpower levels to get in? No place yet. I think you're tired of living. Xiang Tianfu had been dumbfounded at this point, not expecting to be known by Bai Nui so quickly. The thing about violating the rules yourself. At once, not caring about the ropes tied to him, he squirmed down in a hurry, struggling to straighten himself out, tears and snot running down his face. My lord, spare me. I've done it just this once. Yun Feng, he's just an F-ranked loser. I'm a D-ranked superpower. I can redeem myself. Xiang Tianfu was aware of the means of the one in front of him. If you are not forgiven, it is good to take off your own skin. After all, this kind of guilt is not a joke. After seeing Bai Nui's lack of response, Xiang Tianfu was also completely flustered. Hastily, he turned his attention to his cousin. Kai-san, you must save me. I'm doing what you tell me to do. After Xiang Kaishan heard this, his face suddenly changed. Then he stated angrily, don't be ridiculous. I didn't ask you to do anything like that. Besides, how could I victimize my classmates? Lu Ruyan, who was on the side, also hurriedly said after seeing Xiang Kaishan also being rolled in. That's right, how could Kaishan be this kind of person? He has an excellent reputation among all his classmates. And Yun Feng let out a snort as he looked at this farce. While Xiang Kaishan and Lu Ruyan naturally noticed Yun Feng, they just didn't expect Yun Feng to actually shelve this smile. Although he didn't know how Yun Feng knew Bai Nui, the laughter still stirred up resentment within the duo. What are you laughing at? You didn't go into the safe house yourself and now you're here to falsely accuse us of something. What qualifications do you have? An F-rank weakling? To laugh here. Yun Feng shook his head. You guys really don't recognize the current situation. Yun Feng also knew that Bai Nui was asking for help after just spending time with him, and might even know a little bit about his talent. So instantly, he also began to put on a picture of a tired heart. Lord White, I'm a bit tired. It's really hard for me to be blamed for being talked about so much by my classmates, especially since the former just stole my girlfriend and now wants to screw me over. It's not worth it on earth. Although Bai Nui knew that Yun Feng was pretending, it would be absolutely abnormal to face this kind of dogged man without a little bit of anger inside. And after thinking about Yun Feng's ability, Bai Nui didn't dare to gamble on this little bit of probability. In case Yun Feng was not a fan of humans and was hurt inside, he turned around and joined the Fae directly. So do they even want to play? How dare you woo and bark when it's so late? Just as you were scrambling to hide in your safe houses, the F-rank weakling you're talking about. He decimated a city of Fae all by himself, even destroying the Green Vine clan. Is this also a weakling? If he's trash, what are you guys? Bai Nui's words were extremely lethal, directly numbing Xiang Kaishan, Lu Ruyan, including Xiang Tianfu who was constantly kowtowing and begging for mercy. For a while the three of them forgot to speak. their eyes dull as they recalled what Bai Nui had just said. After half a minute, Ruyan Lu was the first to react and smiled extremely reluctantly. My lord, you're joking, he's just an F-class waste. How can it be a hero in your mouth? Chapter 9 I have only betrayed you, but the crime is not mortal. Is it? Yes or no? We need not prove it to you. And what kind of a thing are you? After Bai Nui's words came out, Lu Ruyan's figure trembled a few times. The beautiful eyes sunk slightly, and a trace of jealousy and madness flashed within them. But nothing more was said. After all, the situation was stronger than the people, and she had just awakened her superpowers, so she was no match for Bai Nui. However, she did not bring faith to Bai Nui's words. In her opinion, Bai Nui should just know Yunfeng and want to stand up for him. At this moment, after seeing that the other party wasn't that nice to talk to, Lu Ruyan instantly shriveled up, and Bai Nui looked at Xiang Kaishan and thought for a moment before saying directly to Yunfeng, how about it? Do you want me to hand him over to you? Whether you kill it or whatever, I can help you suppress it, but of course with your strength, you can still handle it even without me. Yunfeng smiled. Such a good opportunity. He is not some saint of female frequency, and he is still reasonable when it comes to this kind of thing. Immediately, he stated directly, kill it, but if something happens, you're responsible for it. Bai Nui nodded. In her opinion a small B-rank superpower. Kill it. How big a deal? And for all the talk of genius, this kind of person has interfered with one of the most basic rules of the league. There are all the justifiable reasons to kill him, and there are no consequences to consider at all. Even if the Xiang family knew about it, it wouldn't do much good, and they would even have to make amends. After all, the kind of thing Xiang Kaishan did was shaking the foundation of the alliance. Now that she saw Yunfeng had said so, Bai Nui naturally wouldn't hesitate. Directly to the men on the sidelines. Is the video on yet? The whole thing was recorded. At this time, Xiang Kaishan also panicked. He had just awakened how to die now After thinking about this, the fear of death directly enveloped Chu's entire body, and at this time he also figured it out. Immediately, he went straight towards where Yunfeng was, kowtowing frantically and apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm the one who got carried away. Forgive me, I shouldn't have hooked up with Ruyan Lu. I shouldn't have used my status so you couldn't get into the safe house, and I shouldn't have taunted you. Xiang Kaishan is tied up though, but his will to survive still made his body constantly twist and turn as he paid homage to Yunfeng again and again. And when Bai Nui saw this, the movements in her hands froze for a moment. After all, she didn't know what Yunfeng was thinking, and Yunfeng laughed a little when he saw this. Really know it's wrong? Xiang Kaishan kowtowed even more vigorously after seeing that Yunfeng seemed to be relieved. I really know I'm wrong. Please spare me. And at this moment, it seemed as if Ruyan Lu hadn't seen the situation clearly. After all, she was present when Yunfeng determined his F-class superpower, and Xiang Kaishan was obviously more worthy of investment than Yunfeng, so he was also squeezing out a few tears as well. Yunfeng, just give us a break. It's all because I'm sorry. If you want to blame me, blame me. Yunfeng almost laughed outright after hearing this. If it had been before, one might have believed it, but now, Yunfeng could only say Yunfeng directly took out the weapon that Lingdong had left for himself earlier, the Green Vine Thousand Machines, directly changing into a long sword. He looked at Xiang Kaishan who was still kowtowing and admitting his mistake, and Ruyan Lu who was pretending to wipe her tears. Yunfeng looked at Ruyan Lu and shouted, Ruyan, look at me. There was tenderness within the words, and Ruyan Lu subconsciously raised her head. Only the moment she looked up, she saw something she would never forget. Only seeing Yunfeng flinging his long sword, the body of Xiang Kaishan, who was originally kowtowing and begging for mercy, suddenly trembled. Then under Lu Ruyan's gaze, only a blood scar instantly appeared on Xiang Kaishan's neck. A few seconds later, the bloodstains began to expand, and Xiang Kaishan's pupils suddenly dilated, subconsciously lowering his head, wanting to check. Instead, he realized that there was a spinning of the sky, and he saw that his body was still in the same place, but his vision had changed. Having lost his head, blood kept touching out like a shower. As for Lu Ruyan and Xiang Tianfu, who were the closest to Xiang Kaishan, their entire bodies were drenched in blood under the roiling blood. After half a second, the duo was completely dumbfounded. It didn't occur to him that Yunfeng was actually so decisive, killing when he said he would, not caring at all about any repercussions. The screams were endless, especially when Lu Ruyan and Xiang Tianfu saw Yunfeng walking towards them. Scared out of my wits. Especially Lu Ruyan was even more direct. Yunfeng, I only betrayed you. The crime is not to death, right? Don't kill me. Lord Bai, you're from the Alliance. Mind him. After these words came out, Bai Nui directly rolled her eyes. How do you manage it yourself? The movement of Yunfeng just now was not much more powerful than her. If you go and take care of it yourself, isn't that offending Yunfeng? She may be called the goddess of light, but she's not stupid. When faced with a teenager with such potential, it's even better not to befriend him. And to offend, that's something only a retard would do. Especially the memories inside her mind. More and more she felt that Yunfeng was the protagonist of this world. After all, within the world of superpowers, conceptual techniques appear. What a crush this is. So she didn't want to interfere. And she even wanted to hold on to the thighs of the teenager in front of her, to know that inside her memory, she knew that there was once that one angel investor who invested in the protagonist in the early stages. And in the end, when the protagonist became stronger, he followed suit. You're going to die. It's none of my business. I didn't see it. Yunfeng, you continue. Yunfeng was a bit surprised to see Bai Ruoyi like this. After all, the person in front of him was an official bigwig of the alliance. I can't believe I'm acquiescing to ignoring the rules. More or less unbelievable. But after careful thought, it instantly became clear. Perhaps the shock he had just brought by transforming into Lin Dong was just too great. It caused the other side to not dare to act rashly either. And to top it all off, one had just wiped out an entire city of Fei, and even went on to exterminate a clan. It would be too chilling to go against yourself now. Yunfeng, who had finished understanding all this, also smiled and came to Lu Ruyan's side, then slowly crouched down and pressed the long knife against Lu Ruyan's chin. Ruyan, why do you think you're so stupid? Even if you want to get rid of me, why don't you wait one more day? Look at how hard this is going now. Seeing Yunfeng speak to himself in such a gentle tone, Lu Ruyan mistook it as Yunfeng remembering his old feelings. Instantly, he also loaded up. Brother Yunfeng, it's not like that. It's really not like that. Even if I, Lu Ruyan, were to be more of a lover of vanity, it would be impossible for me to leave you when you've just awakened. It's just that Xiang Kaishan found me and said he'd kill you if I didn't stay with him. You do know that I love you so much. How could I possibly see you die? So that's why I'm committing myself to being with him. Chapter 10. Bainoi, 2 tigers are not allowed on one mountain, unless one is a male and one is a female. Looking at Lu Ruyan's gushing words, and that performance in the wood, Yunfeng was stunned. Is that what you call acting? If he hadn't already seen what kind of woman Ruyan Lu was, he might have really been deceived by it. Stop, 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 stop. I'm just asking you if you regret it. What are you gabbing on about? You don't think I, Yunfeng, can accept broken shoes, do you? Yunfeng immediately felt a sense of relief in his body as he uttered these words. It seems that the saying goes, the simplest mouth stinks. The most extreme enjoyment. Looking at Ruyan Lu's chest that was heaving with anger, Yunfeng, in order to let it cool down, backhanded and directly cut off Xiang Tianfu's head on the side as well. The blood was originally warm, but when it landed on Lu Ruyan's body, it seemed incomparably harsh. It even made Lu Ruyan's heart chill. Looking at this Yunfeng in front of him who was still smiling, in a trance, it overlapped with the figure inside his memory. The eyes were dull and full of fear. Yunfeng, even though I did something to apologize to you, but this offense, is it really that big? I just made the same mistake that all women make. As for Bai Nuai, who was still eating melon, she suddenly became upset after hearing Lu Ruyan's map cannon. Commit a crime. I've never even been in a relationship. Don't take the whole group with you when you make up your own dirty business. Bai Nui wouldn't care about other people's feelings. After all, she cultivated in order to do whatever she wanted and get respect from others. This kind of unwarranted hat she didn't want to wear. As for Lu Ruyan, after hearing Bai Nuai's words, she didn't dare to have the slightest retort. Just silently blinking her eyes, she looked at Yunfeng with an expectant face, hoping to awaken some of Yunfeng's past affection for her. However, Yunfeng really didn't have the idea of killing Ruyan Lu directly. Compared to the others, Yunfeng was more interested in seeing Lu Ruyan's expression of regret, especially knowing how strong you are afterward. Although it was a bit childish to say, Yunfeng still wanted to do it. But before that, it was absolutely impossible to make things easy for Ruyan Lu. No more killing you. After saying this, before Lu Ruyan could be surprised, Yunfeng immediately said, that white goddess. Ah, while I don't want to kill her anymore, I don't want to see her either. Why don't you see if the alliance has any more free cells? Get her a TV and let her live in it. I want to see her regret it. Yunfeng's words instantly caused everyone present to start laughing uncontrollably. That's too bad. And Bai Nui actually nodded upon hearing such a request. Yunfeng, don't call me my white goddess either. Just call me Noi. And looking at Bai Nui and Yunfeng who were chatting like no one else, Lu Ruyan was dumbfounded. One's future is arranged in 3 words? It's a little too much child's play. However, after learning that she didn't have to die, Ruyan Lu was still certain of one thing. and that was that Yun Feng should still be mindful of his old feelings. Just be miserable and show regret when the time comes. Yun Feng would definitely not be able to resist and come back to his senses. And also giving himself a TV. Yun Feng definitely had her in his heart. The only thing that was uncertain now was whether Yun Feng was truly talented or just fake. But odds are it should be fake. After all, exterminate a clan and guard the city. Where a person who has been awakened for a day can do that. After watching Lu Ruyan being sent away by the car, Bai Nuai also came to Yun Feng's side and said with a smile, "How's that for comfort?" Yun Feng nodded, but he was more or less puzzled inwardly. "Do you so simply value my abilities? I'm not very good. Oh, after all, I'm just an F-rank weakling." Bai Nui rolled her beautiful eyes, as if saying, "Do you believe it yourself when you say this?" Expression. Yun Feng also waved his hand when he saw this. "Well, I know you're definitely capable of more than that. After all, you're the first man in history to have 100% spiritual affinity, and I know about your ability. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a concept technique." The moment Bai Nui's words came out, Yun Feng was instantly on guard. "It's been 18 years since I crossed over to this world." Yun Feng naturally knew that there was no such thing as a concept for awakened superpowers in this world, and Pak Noi actually pointed it out directly. Is it possible that there are others who have awakened similar conceptual abilities? Or maybe Pak Noi is a traveler too? And after Bai Nuai saw this expression on Yun Feng's face, she instantly realized that her words might have irritated Yun Feng. At that moment, after looking around and seeing that it was empty, he also whispered, "Don't be nervous, I don't mean anything else, and I'm not going to hurt you." However, even when Bai Nui said this, the vigilance in Yun Feng's eyes still did not disappear. Seeing this, Bai Nui was also helpless. After thinking about it, decided to come clean. Palace Jade Wine. Yun Feng was directly confused after hearing this. Instantly, he understood the meaning of Bai Nui's words, hoping that he hadn't really guessed wrong. Pak Noi is really a traveler. In response, Yun Feng also said slowly after hesitating for a moment, 181 cups. Bai Nuai also had an expression of "I'm sure it's like that" after hearing Yun Feng's reply. "Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who stabs an old man in the back when he sees him. After coming to this world for so many years, I've already integrated into this world. And although I have a bit of talent, it's not top-notch. Other than that, there were no ups and downs, and the cultivation went smoothly. I've read quite a few male novels, and I know that I'm definitely not the so-called protagonist in this situation. So what I'm going to do is hug my thighs. What do I say? Can you relax?" After seeing Bai Nuai express her inner words with great vigor, it had to be said that Yun Feng was really quite relieved. "How did you recognize me?" Seeing Yun Feng's eyes with much less caution within them, Bai Nui also smiled. "Actually, it was a guess at first. After all, your experience is so interesting. A genius turned loser, betrayed by his girlfriend, taunted by his classmates, and then rose up strong, having a unique skill. Isn't that the standard for a protagonist? And don't most of your male novels have protagonists that cross over? Besides, I'm just right on a code word, and even if I'm not, you don't know what it is." Seeing Bai Nuai like this, Yun Feng was completely speechless, but she did seem to be talking about it, and to be able to talk so openly showed that there really was nothing in his heart to add to his own. However, in response to this, Yun Feng still asked, "Since you've read male novels, then you should also know that when travelers meet each other, they basically die. So why do you trust me so much?" When Bai Nuai heard this, she also gave Yun Feng a puzzled look. "Two tigers are not allowed on one mountain, unless they are one male and one female. That you don't know? Chapter 11 gotta break the defense. And a big one at that." After Yun Feng heard this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch a few times, as if he was talking sense. There's nothing wrong with it at all, and Bai Noi didn't look like that. On the contrary, she was very beautiful. It's not impossible to work together. After figuring this out, Yun Feng also said directly, "That's true, but I always thought you had another agenda, didn't you?" Bai Nui hemmed and hawed when she saw Yun Feng being so straightforward. "Far from it. Your current fighting ability alone is enough for me to hold my thigh. And at that time, if I wasn't mistaken, you were using the Great Desolate imprisoning Heavenly Finger, weren't you? That's Brother Kanoko. So you're asking me what I'm up to. Do I even need to tell you that?" Yun Feng heard that there seemed to be a few points of truth. "Alright, in that case, then please teach me more in the future." Bai Noi smiled slightly. "I'm the one who should be asking for guidance." Soon, amidst the duo's conversation, the Alliance's people soon arrived. Under Bai Nuai's explanation, especially those reporters who came to cover the story, each one of them was dumbfounded. It was completely unexpected that this harmless-looking teenager in front of him could actually be this fierce. "Lord White, are you telling the truth? This teenager is really that fierce?" Bai Nui smiled, then made a gesture of invitation. You can ask Yunfeng any questions you have, but there's one thing I want to make clear. In my opinion, Yunfeng is the hope of our entire humanity. Right after Bai Nui finished saying this, suddenly her cell phone also rang. After Bai Nui connected and listened to the content inside the phone, she looked at the reporter that the Alliance had sent to interview, and also said with a smile, and Yunfeng's ability has been updated. Before it was a prediction of its superpower level that was wrong. Now that the official superpower website has gotten an update, Yunfeng's superpower level has officially changed to X rank, overriding SSS rank, bestowed with the name, Concept God. As soon as Bai Nui's words came out, the shutter went off straight away. Long guns and short cannons were aimed at Yunfeng and Bai Nui, method to record this historic moment. As for whether Pak Noi would lie, this was something they had never even considered. After all, who is Bai Nui? Even these league reporters checked out some of the official superpower websites. After seeing Yunfeng's sequence directly from FX, he was directly aligned in the first place. It was even more overwhelming. This is the kind of script they love to read. Through twists and turns, geniuses become wastrels and then rise again. Even saving a city's inhabitants, slaughtering a clan, and avenging a grudge, make it news. And there's no telling how many heartstrings it could set off. So at this time, there was no telling how many questions were thrown at Yunfeng. And Yunfeng was dumbfounded when he saw the scene. The whole thing was a bit overwhelming. For this kind of experience, Yunfeng was completely unprepared, especially after the other side's serious questions. Soon these league reporters began to be immodest as well. One of the girls with a very wild body looked at Yunfeng as if starlight was sparkling inside her eyes. That Lord Yunfeng, may I ask what type of girl you like? Will you see if one like me is okay? But that wasn't the end of it. After seeing the girl like that, a muscular man next to her, holding up a camera, also shouted, Yun Shun, don't listen to those stinking women. I can have monkeys for you too. It scared Yunfeng so much that his face changed. The previous girl shouted even if, after all, looks really good. But what the hell is a man? Looking at Bai Nui who was snickering at the side, Yunfeng's face turned green and after simply answering a few questions, he simply ran away. After seeing that it was almost time, and that Yunfeng had finished answering all the questions he should have answered, Bai Nui did not stop him. He even followed Yunfeng and ran straight away. Don't care at all about those league reporters in the back. There was a group of people left behind, staying in place and looking at each other in disbelief. Have you ever seen the white goddess like this? I've never even seen her smile, and now she's actually smiling. The crowd shook their heads in unison as these words came out. It's not right. It's just so wrong. Banned. Don't say it. Even if it's not right, it's none of your business. Don't speculate. Union journalists are still very efficient. Not even an hour after Yunfeng left, a piece of news rushed straight to the hot search. Yesterday's genius, today's scrappy, aura affinity number 1. Reverse 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 reverse. And netizens who saw this news subconsciously wiped their eyes. After making sure he wasn't mistaken, his mouth fell open. Good lord, what an experience. This is so ed up. If I were Lu Ruyan, I would be truly furious, giving up a supreme heavenly pride in finding a short-lived ghost. And now in jail. Literally. Don't say it. If people read this message from you, they're probably going to break their defenses. And they're going to break them big time. Am I the only one who noticed the new rank? X-rated superpower. Ah, Concept God. Possessing an ability that actually relies on one's imagination. What the hell is this? I think it's a bit off the mark too. The official explanation is a bit sloppy. Seeing the rebuttal from the people above, some residents of Star City who didn't have the time to retreat to the safe house and survive also said directly, what do you guys know? I don't think it's outrageous at all. Do you guys know what awakening for 2 days and exterminating a tribe is? And I was delivering at that time, and when the foreigners invaded, you are not to know that I was scared silly. If it wasn't for Yunfeng stepping forward, transforming into a golden giant, and using half a finger to kill all the foreigners in the entire city, I might not even be able to speak over here now. With that said, the resident also released a video he had recorded under his own comments. Numerous netizens shouted one after another when they saw it. This girl isn't practicing immortality? Why is it that they're all superpowered? But my powers are still only good for playing in the mud, and everyone else is starting to destroy the sky and the earth? Outrageous! Outrageous! Is this really what superpowers can do? Under that heaven-destroying aura, he was still able to control the force so well without hurting his own people a single bit, compared to the comments from the outside world. At this time, Yunfeng had already arrived at Bai Nui's home. Yunfeng didn't know why he was brought here so inexplicably. Bai Nui didn't think that much, but simply wanted to be with Yunfeng. After all, That's what it says in the novel. Yun Feng, in her opinion, was definitely a person with great chi. Following his lead, one could definitely gain a lot of benefits. Chapter 12, Are you that curious about my secrets? After all, who is a good person who has so many extra means on the second day of awakening? Not only did he destroy a clan, but he also brought 2 treasures from within that clan. By the looks of it, the grade is not low. The most crucial thing was that Bai Nui had not been able to understand what exactly Yun Feng's ability was until now. Though she knew going to the bathroom had to be $1, but she always felt it wasn't that simple. So she felt that Yun Feng was hiding something from her. It's just that right now, she's not all that good at asking about it. After all, the 2 of them had only known each other for a day. Now this is how Bai Nui is already satisfied. Would you like something to drink? When she thought of this, Bai Nui also directly inquired up Yun Feng. At this Yun Feng did not have any inhibitions and said casually, just get me a cup of coffee. With those words, Bai Nui also nodded slightly, then began to busy herself. Yun Feng looked at Bai Nui's back and smiled slightly, not thinking that he could actually run into his old hometown in this world. More or less unbelievable. And there wasn't some doggone thing going on. After moving his gaze away, Yun Feng also began to meditate seriously. After all, he still had the green sky dragon transformation decision given to him by Lin Dong inside his sea of consciousness. This kind of thing, no matter when it was placed, would be a great help to Yun Feng. And Bai Nui, who was grinding coffee, also noticed Yun Feng cultivating at that moment. Looking at the aura that escaped from its body, one could instantly know that he had guessed correctly. Yun Feng really wasn't that simple. And the more this happened, the more Bai Nui became curious as to what other abilities Yun Feng had in his body. Although there was no intention of victimizing Yun Feng, and he also knew that prying into other people's secrets was presumptuous, he just couldn't help it. But in the end, reason overcame curiosity. She didn't want to cause Yun Feng to have any accidents because of her own rashness. So after grinding the coffee, she didn't directly wake up Yun Feng, who was practicing Qingtian Dragon Transformation Decision Lin Dong obtained from the inheritance of Qing Pheasant. Body Refining Martial Arts. Heavenly Martial Arts. With the help of the Heavenly Dragon's Qi to get started, he cultivated the Green Dragon's skin. Cultivated to its peak, the strength of its flesh was almost able to rival those of the true dragon race. Showing the strength of this Qingtian Dragon Transformation skill, it can condense the Green Light Dragon Tattoo, which can further strengthen the physical body while using the energy source of the Green Dragon Heavenly Seat Seal. If you want to achieve great success, you need to enter the Dragon Clan's ancient dragon pool to condense the dragon bones before you can truly achieve success. Although Yun Feng did not have these external conditions, he had a strand of origin left behind by Lin Dong. It was important to know that the Lin Dong at this time was no longer the original Lin Dong, but the Lin Dong who had traveled to the Great Thousand Worlds to create the martial realm. Therefore, this strand of origin was also enough for Yun Feng to cultivate to great success. Only until then, it's better to take it step by step. After all, one bite does not make a fat man. Yun Feng simply ran the Gong method, and after cultivating for a while with the help of the origin that Lin Dong had left behind, he was directly initiated. Yun Feng's change had certainly caught Bai Nui's attention. Inside Bai Nui's perspective, only to see Yun Feng suddenly cover his entire body with a green-colored scale armor. His ferocious aura was on display, at least within Bai Nui's knowledge. There was no such power in this world. Needless to think, it must have been obtained by Yun Feng through his own concept technique. It was that somehow, looking at the changes in Yun Feng's body at this moment, she always felt that she had seen it somewhere. And in a sudden flash of inspiration, Bai Nui found Hua Dot. The moment Yun Feng came to his senses, he came directly next to him. Practice is over? Yun Feng subconsciously nodded, but saw the scale armor on his body and then met Bai Nui's curious eyes. There was also a slight sigh, and then he ran his spiritual energy, dispelling the green dragon armor, and picked up the coffee that was placed to the side. Go ahead and ask. What did you guess this time? Yun Feng was helpless, and the feeling of powerlessness in the face of his old hometown came to life. After all, what he knew, Bai Nui should also know. It's from the same place after all. So also know that you can't hide it from the other side. Bai Nui hemmed and hawed, completely lacking her previous goddess-like demeanor, but instead blinking her big eyes like a little girl, her eyes burning as she looked at Yun Feng. What you just cultivated couldn't have been the Qingtian Dragon Transformation Decree, could it? After all, you've used the Great Desolate Imprisoning Heavenly Finger before. Yun Feng also nodded slightly when he saw that the other party had guessed it. It's a real shame not to gouge out those eyes of yours. Seeing Yun Feng like this, Bai Nui didn't get angry. Instead, she became even more curious. I'm just wondering how you can have this kind of technique and be so strong when your skill is obviously getting coins. It doesn't make sense. Yun Feng, just tell me. I'm telling you, after coming to this world for so many years, I've been so careful not to get in touch with others that I'm already going crazy. Now it's so hard to get someone to talk. You must tell me. I can swear to God I'll never tell anyone else. Oaths in this world are still somewhat useful. After all, Blue Star's consciousness had awakened. And to swear was to make one's own promise to Blue Star's consciousness. If you break the oath, it's the same as cheating the Blue Star consciousness. The end is also predictable. Basically there will not be any progress in cultivation. Even the aura will repel you. Basically the equivalent of being wasted. Seeing that Yunfeng did not say anything, Bai Nuai immediately became anxious. 3 fingers together, her gaze serious, directly swearing to the sky. I, Bai Nui, promise not to divulge Yunfeng's secret, in any form, or else the heavens will be disgusted and abandon it. The moment Bai Nuai finished swearing, Yunfeng could clearly perceive that Bai Nuai's body carried a touch of yellow-orange color amongst her chi. The psychic 5 Emperor's money also appeared to have a slight bright light at this moment. A meditative feeling appeared directly in Yunfeng's mind through the psychic 5 Emperor money. Bai Nuai's chi changes were actually related to herself. And the trend of her chi was actually flourishing? What the hell is this? And even his own chi was a little stronger. Yunfeng couldn't figure out why this was for a while, but it was always a good thing. So he didn't dwell on it too much. Instead, he looked at Bai Nuai, and after seeing that Bai Nuai was serious, Yunfeng was also feeling weepy. Just that curious about my secrets. Ha! Pak Noi's heads quickly dropped. Yeah, who wouldn't be curious? I told you before, I couldn't trust anyone over the years, not even someone to talk to. There's something you're holding back, so just say it. I've sworn to it. Yunfeng was helpless, but still nodded his head in agreement. In that case, fine. Actually my skills aren't fixed. They're refreshed every day. Chapter 13 What a pervert. Every word that Yunfeng uttered, Bai Nui knew. But why after combining them together? How could Pak Noi feel so strange? Skills? Refresh every day? But what about this thing being an NPC? Bai Nuai was originally very angry. Yunfeng, even if he didn't want to say it, he wouldn't have to use this kind of reason to perfume himself, right? But looking at Yunfeng's eyes, Bai Nui then realized that Yunfeng's words didn't seem to be a joke. His skills are really just refreshed every day. But that's a little too buggy, isn't it? Why is that? You're too good for this one. How do you do that? Refreshing it every day. So is the skill you refresh every day still a concept skill? Yunfeng wasn't very clear about this either. There was a moment's silence, and a worse possibility suddenly came to mind. There are pros and cons to constantly refreshing your skills on your own. After all, someone else has been immersed in their superpowers on top of theirs for years, and in time they're sure to be incredibly powerful. And I'm still not sure if my own generalized skill is a refreshed concept skill every day. And Bai Nuai also roughly understood a little bit after seeing Yunfeng's silence. Then directly, don't worry, even if the ones you brush up on every day aren't conceptual techniques, it doesn't affect your perversity in the slightest. Hearing this presumptuous consolation, Yunfeng didn't know how to spit it out for a while. What does it mean to be a pervert? After all, your skills are refreshed every day. In case you brush up to some second killing concept skill one day and directly kill the alien supreme being, wouldn't you be invincible? Or brushed up on some inner control concept technique. That's why I called you perverted. But what Bai Nui said did make sense. After all, one's skills are refreshed every day, so maybe one day they'll be refreshed with a thief's skill, and there was no need to be in such a hurry for himself. After all, he had the merit cultivation now. Lin Dong's Qingtian dragon transformation decision could completely continue to be cultivated, even if the skill was really refreshed with trash in the future. You're not defenseless yourself, are you? After pondering for a moment, combined with the words Bai Nuai had just said, Yunfeng also looked at Bai Nuai in front of him and also said directly, "You've got a point. Never mind not dwelling on all this nonsense. You're from the Alliance. What does the Alliance side think of me?" Bai Nuai smiled. After knowing Yunfeng's secret, at this moment, she was incomparably excited. However, after hearing Yunfeng's words, it was only then that he collected the slightest hint of a smile. The Alliance side is still unclear at the moment, but I think it should be friendly towards you. After all, the feats you've done are real. But Xiang Xiaotian's side, after learning that his brother died at your hands, threatened to try you in public. He might give you some trouble. By the way, do you know who Xiang Xiaotian is? Yunfeng had a look of looking at a little cutie. Eyes at Bai Nuai. Do you think this is something that I, a student who has just finished awakening, should know? Bai Nuai thought about it carefully. It seemed like that was the case. Although Xiang Xiaotian wasn't a top-tier combat superhuman, but his role is logistically useful. Level B superpower. Mind approval. Therefore, Bai Nuai did not hide Yunfeng and directly introduced some of the circumstances of Xiang Xiaotian and the Xiang family to Yunfeng. The Xiang family could be said to be a famous family in the city of Star City. Even during the alien invasion, it wasn't destroyed outright, but instead dragged on until the age of aura recovery. There are also many superpowered people with good strength within the clan. The forces are intricate and the interactions are more than a little derivative. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that in this generation, the several sons of the Xiang family head were all dragons among men, and the superpowers awakened by each of them were incomparably strong. And Xiang Xiaotian is the second youngest member of the Xiang family. Its ability, Mind Trial, is also a powerful superpower that is both functional and combative. Not so easy to deal with. Facing his enemies, just a little inattention will be its superpower into the body, directly began to judge. In a normal trial, a person invaded by superpowers would involuntarily say what Xiang Xiaotian wanted to know. Power Trial, on the other hand, will use superpowers to torture the mind of an opponent. So this is an extremely difficult person to deal with. Moreover, Yunfeng also knew that his current strength was unstable, so he didn't know what to do for a while. Bai Nuai could see Yunfeng's thoughts and also said with a smile, "Do you regret it now? If I had been allowed to kill Xiang Kaishan in the first place, nothing would have happened at all. Even if the Xiang family is so angry again, it won't help, and the other party doesn't take advantage of the situation. But for your words, the top management of the alliance didn't do anything substantial although they put out some goodwill. So at this point the odds are that you are being observed." When Yunfeng thought about it, it seemed to make so much sense. Isn't the other party afraid of their own strength? After all, the combat power that he showed himself before should be very powerful. To exterminate a clan. It seems that no one has been able to do it yet, right? Bai Nui shook her head, her expression suddenly serious. This was still done, and not by one clan, but by the extermination of several, only it never came to light. There was an agreement with the Fae above. After Yunfeng heard this, several question marks appeared in his brain. There's actually such a ruthless person. Bai Nui also had a bit of respect inside her eyes at this time. Yeah, this whole thing has been kept secret. Then in that case, those people from the Xiang family, why do they still dare to find themselves in trouble? Bai Nui smiled, then spoke her mind. Think about it carefully. The other party is at least a party's family, a powerful one, and their young master was just directly killed by you, expressing anger for sure. How else are they going to get a foothold? When Yunfeng heard it, it seemed like such a reason. Still a bit confused though. Then they know that the fighting prowess I've shown is really just simply to save face? After Bai Nuai heard this, she couldn't hold it in any longer and laughed outright. Okay, not to tease you. The Xiang family did say those words, but they were just for show, and they will definitely come over to you later to make amends and apologize. After all, with the strength you've shown now, how many people in the world can be stronger than you? Perhaps only the supreme beings of the various races, and they would have to be the top races within the foreign races to have that much of a chance of being stronger than you. After all, the Green Vine clan you exterminated isn't considered a weak foreign clan anymore. And with their supreme lord dead, do you think the Xiang clan will still dare to look for trouble from you? All you have to do is just wait quietly and then see if the original forgives the Xiang family. As Bai Nuai spoke, she also took out her cell phone directly and handed it to Yunfeng's eyes. Chapter 14 Strength is the source of the bottom line. Only to see messages popping up frantically on top of Bai Nui's cell phone, and it was Xiang Xiaotian who sent the message to Bai Nuai. Only to see that at this moment, Xiang Xiaotian was not at all as arrogant as Bai Nuai had said. Sister Bai, is Yunfeng by your side? How's that Yunfeng's mood right now? He didn't call directly, did he? Sister Bai, do you know what Yunfeng likes? My old man wanted me to say this, and he hid himself. And that wasn't my intention at all. My brother is dead as dead as dead. How dare he offend Lord Yunfeng? That's him seeking death. Even if Lord Yunfeng doesn't kill him, we'll all kill him to apologize to Lord Yunfeng. Sister Bai, I'll be right there with you. Yunfeng couldn't help but laugh after reading the message. You say this guy is kind of funny. Bainoi's eyes were rather strange. So you're forgiving each other? Yunfeng shook his head. It's not so much about forgiveness, I guess. It's just that I don't want to miss out on the benefits. And my powers aren't very stable right now. So I don't have that need to mess with so many enemies. Although I know that the hatred within the other party is definitely there. It's just that it's in the way of strength. So that's why this chose to hold back. But right now I need time to grow. Bai Nuai felt more and more that her vision was not in any way wrong after hearing Yunfeng have such a clear perception. Is this the protagonist of a male frequency? So discreet? So if you had the strength, would you still forgive each other? When Yunfeng heard this, he looked at Bai Nuai with a picture of looking at a monster. As if Bai Nuai was talking. Aren't you full of crap? If I have strength, how can I be false with others? And those who are cynical about me? It's all because my genes are impure if I don't wipe out their entire family. Keep them waiting to make tabs behind their backs? Earthworms are split vertically. Bai Nui finally realized why she didn't have a golden finger for the sake of it. That kind of heart is what makes a male frequency protagonist. It was too ferocious, but it was also hard for Bai Nui to hear excitement. Cow. Then I suggest that you, after brushing up on your good skills, go straight to your door. Yunfeng nodded. That's actually what I meant. Soon, in the midst of their conversation, the doorbell of Bai Nui's villa also rang. After hearing the doorbell ring, Yunfeng and Bai Nui glanced at each other and both saw smiles in each other's eyes. But soon the smiles closed right up, and the atmosphere all became heavy. Under Bai Nui's operation, the gate was also opened directly. A voice came right through the device. You guys come on in. Xiang Xiaotian and the few attendants behind him didn't dare to be careless and walked in with extreme caution. But for some reason, the closer a few people got to the room, the more nervous they became, and an invisible oppression fell on the hearts of all of them. Xiang Xiaotian, remembering those videos circulating on the internet, was actually drumming inside. After all, he didn't know what kind of person Yunfeng was. In case it's a total evil person who doesn't accept the reparation, he might have to give it for nothing. I don't know what the old man actually meant. Letting him clamor was fine, but now he also wanted him to come and make amends. Isn't that pushing him into the fire? But he couldn't say anything. After all, it would only get worse if he didn't. Arriving before and after the door of the room, Xiang Xiaotian nervously rubbed his hands together before knocking on the door a few times. Lord Yunfeng, Sister Bai, are you guys inside? Well, just come right in. Xiang Xiaotian took a deep breath before pushing the door open. Only just the moment he stepped in, Xiang Xiaotian's entire body was almost numb. Only Bai Nui and Yunfeng were sitting together, watching with interest the broadcast of their own clamor on top of the TV. Xiang Xiaotian almost shattered as he listened to the words that came out of his mouth. Can't let them keep looking. Xiang Xiaotian only had this one thought left inside his mind at this moment. If I keep reading, something will happen. So he interrupted with a decisive outburst. Lord Yunfeng, Sister Bai, you guys are watching TV. This stuff is not interesting. That's not my intention. Really? Xiang Xiaotian's stance was low, but Yunfeng and Bai Nui pressed on. Ignoring Xiang Xiaotian, still continue to watch. Sweat slowly slid down Xiang Xiaotian's forehead. Standing here for just a few seconds, Xiang Xiaotian's back was already thoroughly wet. It wasn't as if he hadn't envisioned inside his head that he would just run his superpowers and kill the duo in front of him. But the thought only came out for a split second before it was directly snuffed out by itself. Let's not talk about Yunfeng's unrivaled battle power. Just one single Bai Nui, A-rank superpower, light elemental mastery. It would already say a lot. Pak Noi was even able to just cut his own head off the first moment he realized something was wrong inside of him. That's bull asterisk 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 asterisk. So seeing that the duo didn't speak, Xiang Xiaotian didn't dare to interrupt, and could only carefully stand in place with his bodyguard, waiting for his own judgment. He also didn't realize that he had judged so many people with his superpowers, and now it's the other guy's turn to judge himself. And life and death are entirely in the hands of the other side. The taste is just too overwhelming. As time passed by, Yunfeng and Bai Nui also finished watching the images about Xiang Xiaotian inside the TV. Then he just turned the TV off. Then he looked at Xiang Xiaotian with interest. Yunfeng was the first to speak. So you're here to kill me? Seeing Yunfeng say this, Xiang Xiaotian's legs trembled a few times. Remembering the giant that covered the sky, Xiang Xiaotian directly swallowed a mouthful of water. After a few laughs, he said directly, how could that be? Who in the entire human alliance now doesn't know of your strength? Lord Yunfeng. And how could I possibly want to make a move against you? Those were just my words, and when I realized my mistake, I came here without stopping to apologize to you, didn't I? Seeing Xiang Xiaotian like this, Yunfeng was more or less enamored with this feeling of controlling the life and death of others at will. An apology? What are you going to do if I don't want to accept it? After all, your brother, Xiang Kaishan, but what about trying to get me killed? And stealing my girlfriend? This kind of hatred, do you think a simple apology will make me forgive? Every word from Yunfeng seemed to bounce off Xiang Xiaotian's little heart. It almost stopped beating straight away. But that wasn't all. Yunfeng followed up. And with my strength, what can you do if I directly destroy your Xiang family? Bai Nui also said with a cold face at this time. Xiang Xiaotian, your Xiang family is really powerful. Ignoring the alliance laws and actually daring to interfere with the rules is already a big offense. And now you've even messed with this kind of existence. Help yourself. Chapter 15 Elf Dragon Eggs? Obviously Bai Nui's words caused Xiang Xiaotian, who was already in a state of confusion, to become even more flustered, deeply afraid that Yunfeng would directly decapitate himself here. But even though he was scared to the point of having two warring strands, Xiang Xiaotian's desire to survive still drove him to speak kindly. Lord Yunfeng, Sister Bai, don't scare me. I came here this time to make amends and apologize. Why don't you take a look at my sincerity first before considering it? Lord Yunfeng? After saying that, Xiang Xiaotian did not give Yunfeng and Bai Nuai the time to speak out and refuse. Then he directly removed the storage ring from his hand. Then like a condom, he kept removing the ring from inside the ring. After taking 4 out all the time, it was only then that he released the contents of the ring with a sweaty face. In just an instant, the living room, which was still incomparably wide, was instantly crowded with all sorts of heavenly materials and money. For a while, the entire living room was emitting colorful light, bejeweled in all sorts of flamboyant light, almost blinding Yunfeng's eyes, and Xiang Xiaotian's heart was dripping blood at this time. Just now, he was really too scared, resulting in an inattentive moment that threw out all of his own treasures as well. The pile of treasures in front of him was not only the family's assistance, but also his entire fortune. But he could only watch, and it was not good enough to take it back inside the ring. After all, with this current atmosphere, it would be a good idea to take back the part that belongs to you. He even wondered if he would die in the streets. This was despite the fact that Yunfeng had just looked at the treasury of the first clan once already, but those were obtained by Lin Dong's hand. So Yunfeng naturally would not move to covet anything, and got 2 treasures of my own. So Yunfeng didn't have any idea. These treasures in front of him were not as good as the treasure troves of other people's clans, but they were plainly placed in front of their eyes, and after knowing that these were compensated to him, Yunfeng's little heart still couldn't help but beat faster. It's not that he doesn't have insight. After all, he's really poor. However, on the surface, Yunfeng still didn't say anything and only placed his gaze on Bai Nui. Bai Nui instantly understood what Yunfeng meant after seeing his eyes. After coughing a bit, he then shook his head directly at Yunfeng. Xiang Xiaotian was close to cursing inwardly when he saw this. Bai Nui, this means, to Yunfeng to engage in these, is not to say that the chips are not enough? When Yunfeng saw Bai Nui like this, he also said directly, so it seems that your entire Xiang clan isn't very sincere enough. Ha? Are your lives worth so little? In fact, Yunfeng was also beating his drum a little inside when he said this because he didn't know how much was appropriate to ask for. After all, the current him, even though he knew that these things were precious, he didn't know what they were worth. And Xiang Xiaotian was also torn at this time. The family had given several compensation results before he came. What he just handed over was pretty close to the maximum compensation result. As for the maximum compensation, to be honest, he was a bit reluctant to part with it. Of course that's the last of the family's bottom line. After all, the highest compensation inside, but carries that thing, that is the holy relics of the elf clan. If it will be handed over, Xiang Xiaotian is also very reluctant to give up, but it's not like there's any other way to do it now. Looking at Yunfeng's increasingly dangerous gaze and Bai Nui standing aside, Xiang Xiaotian finally had no choice but to hand over the last treasure inside his storage ring. Lord Yunfeng, Sister Bai, this is our family heirloom, the elven dragon egg. This is already the greatest result we can compensate for. If it doesn't work, we have no choice but to. Xiang Xiaotian didn't finish his words, but both Yunfeng and Bai Nui knew the meaning inside his words. That would be going to war. But none of this was what Yunfeng cared about. What Yunfeng cared about was that this lime green egg in front of him was actually a holy relic of the elf clan, and Bai Nui was a bit confused after seeing the other party take out the elf dragon egg, completely not expecting the Xiang family to still have this kind of thing, but there was no mistake in observing the aura of this giant egg in front of him, so he immediately nodded directly to Yunfeng. And after Yunfeng received Bai Nui's instructions, he also asked about his doubts. If you have such things, why don't you hatch them and tame them yourselves? As soon as these words came out, Xiang Xiaotian also glanced at the dragon egg in his hand with extreme reluctance before explaining. It's not that we don't want to, it's just that we can't do it. This thing needs an environment full of life force before it can hatch, and we, the Xiang family, including the entire alliance, don't have such an environment. That's why this has been waiting until now. But with your strength, Lord Yunfeng, you can completely find a suitable environment to hatch it out. When Yunfeng heard this, there was actually nothing he had to refuse, though it was not certain that this elven dragon egg would hatch. After all, his own strength was false, but if they added more chips upwards, the Xiang family might fish out of water, and at that time, Yunfeng would be exposed. So in the face of these words, Yunfeng also nodded bashfully. This is a bit interesting. Leave the stuff behind and we'll write off everything between us. If your Xiang family is not convinced, you can also try to find me for revenge, but next time I won't want compensation. I'll personally take everything that belongs to you, including your lives. When the last word destiny fell, the residual power left over from that transformed Lin Dong was suddenly released. Xiang Xiaotian didn't need to say much, he was directly paralyzed with fear, while Bai Nui also almost fainted. If not for his strength, plus the fact that he was sitting down. He might have fallen down at this time as well. At this moment, Xiang Xiaotian, who originally had some ideas, directly closed himself up. He couldn't help but think that after he went back, he must definitely warn everyone inside the family not to go against Yun Feng. This pressure, it was just too terrifying. It was something that could really kill their family, and he didn't dare to bet on it. But even after being scared like this, Xiang Xiaotian still trembled and said, I know, our Xiang family would never dare to go against you, Lord Yun Feng. Well, let's go then. Xiang Xiaotian, who heard these words, then let out a long breath and hurriedly left Bai Nuai's villa with his bodyguards. It was only after getting into the car and moving away from this place that Xiang Xiaotian realized that his clothes were soaked. The whole thing appeared to be a mess. The two bodyguards beside him were even worse. Their pants were wet, obviously scared to pee. But under these circumstances, Xiang Xiaotian didn't blame them, but said extremely seriously, when we get back later, we'll be sure to tell the whole story. And your video, did you record it? Recorded. That's good. I always felt that this kind of stupid provocation shouldn't have been something my dad wanted me to do. I'll have to look into it when I get back. Chapter 16, he could have exterminated his family, and he still wants to go to college? Gone? After Bai Nui smiled and nodded, she also said directly, Yun Feng, you've gotten rich, so many treasures, this is almost half of the Xiang family's savings over the past 100 years. You're real lucky to get paid for lying down. Yun Feng smiled slightly and gently rubbed his hand over the Psychic 5 Emperor's money and stellar energy coin on his neck. Isn't luck part of strength? After saying that, Yun Feng directly used his storage ring and put away the things inside the living room. Only then did he say to Bai Nui, is there anything you want? Bai Nui shook her head after hearing this. I'm already a level 9 superpower now, and unusual things, even if they're worth more, aren't of much use to me, so it's better if you keep these for yourself. After Yun Feng heard this, he also directly inquired, the next step is sainthood. Have you made preparations? A bitter smile appeared on Bai Nui's face after she took a deep breath. I've been stuck at this level for 5 years. If I had been prepared, I would have broken through long ago. So it's not that I don't want to make a breakthrough. It's just that I simply can't find items that contain powerful light abilities. Pretty much all the items with regards to light abilities are basically in the Skywing clan. And the Skywing clan is just too powerful. Even our human supreme beings don't dare to rush into their world. How do you think I'm going to break through? Going is just a death sentence. Yun Feng, who heard this, suddenly felt a trace of sadness for Bai Nui. It seems that too high a level of supernatural awakening like theirs is not a good thing. Advancement items are just too hard to get. The most important point, of course, is that the time given to the human race is still too short. It's only been 100 years, and not being annexed and colonized is already considered a tenacious human race. There is a long way to go in the future. After the two were silent for a while, Yun Feng also said comfortingly, remember the old hometown saying? Let's get it done when we get it done. And when we get it done, we'll get it done. What if one day by luck, a Skywing clan suddenly falls from the sky, and then she happens to have an item of light ability with her, and then the other person happens to die? What about it? Boom! Just before Yun Feng could finish his words, a Skywing clan with a golden light emanating from its entire body and feathered wings landed directly at the feet of Yun Feng and Bai Nui. Under the duo's gaze, they only saw this Skywing clan raise its hand before it dropped down helplessly, its palm spreading apart as a stone with a strong light ability tumbled down, happening to land on top of the ground. Yun Feng pulled the corner of his mouth. After subconsciously picking up the stone, he said directly to Bai Nui, look, here it is. Well, Yun Feng could barely even tense up when he said this. What's all this? Why such a coincidence? Bai Nui, on the other hand, was completely confused. Looking at the stone Yun Feng handed over, his voice became trembling, and subconsciously, he shouted out his name. It's the Stone of Light. Obviously quite disbelieving, but with the facts in front of his eyes, he had to believe it again. What the hell is going on here? The eyes that looked at Yun Feng became strange. You're not God's bastard, are you? Yun Feng also smiled sarcastically, then suddenly thought of something. Is it possible that one's Psychic 5 Emperor money chi is in effect? That's what causes what one says to appear. With that thought in mind, Yun Feng also hurriedly sensed his Psychic 5 Emperor's money, only to see that half of the chi that originally existed on it had suddenly disappeared. It was only then that Yun Feng realized that it was actually really like this. That's too buggy though. It also brought the heart to think about it, but things had already happened. So Yun Feng didn't think much about it. It's something to be happy about when things are on your side anyway. Just tell me something's coming. Do you want it or not? Bai Nui looked at the object of sainthood she had dreamed of, and then looked at Yun Feng, suddenly feeling that sainthood was no longer such a lofty thing. It felt like the pattern was all pulled down at once. He had been searching hard for 5 years and had entrusted an unknown number of connections. But in the end, he had gotten it because of Yun Feng's words. Bai Nuai recalled the heartache of the past, and at this point, she didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Under this extremely unstable emotion, Bai Nui directly hugged Yun Feng after reaching out to receive the stone of light, then kissed Yun Feng on the mouth with her red lips, kissing and muttering at the same time. Dude, borrow some luck. I'm going to be a saint. I can't wait. Yun Feng people are stupid. Looking at the beauty near at hand. If you say that you are not moved at all, it is absolutely false. But what this said caused Yun Feng to have a black line on his face. That's too much of a tiger's word. Half a dozen times later, Bai Nuai, who had finished kissing, blushed slightly, unable to tell if she was shy or excited. Thank you, Yun Feng, for helping me out. And Yun Feng also noticed at this time that the flash of yellow chi that had appeared when Bai Nuai had sworn earlier had also slowly dissipated at this time. After seeing this, Yun Feng instantly understood. A small matter. I'm just saying, how come you can become a saint now? Aren't you in a hurry? Of course Bai Nuai was anxious. After all, this was the opportunity she had been waiting for years, but he himself had only known Yun Feng for a day, and he was accepting this kind of thing for no reason at all. It made Bai Nuai more or less feel bad in her heart. Yun Feng also instantly understood something after seeing Bai Nui's expression, then said without a care in the world. Actually, you shouldn't feel embarrassed or anything. After all, you've already paid the price. Yun Feng said while pointing a finger to his lips. Pak Noi wondered at first where she had paid. However, upon seeing Yun Feng's movements, he instantly understood. The beautiful eyes flowed, and her eyes became strange. Then he suddenly let out a laugh and under Yun Feng's gaze, he once again hugged and kissed Yun Feng's neck. The price just wasn't enough. You're a thigh. You have to be made to feel my sincerity. After Bai Nuai kissed for a good half-long time, in the end, she couldn't bear it anymore, so she turned into a stream of light and disappeared in the same place, leaving behind only a voice that lingered in Yun Feng's ears. I'll come back to you when I'm out. Feeling the residual warmth at the corner of his mouth, Yun Feng smiled bashfully, then shook his head and prepared to leave Bai Nui's house when his cell phone rang at this time. And when Yun Feng saw the name displayed on the phone above, he also directly picked it up. Hello, is this Mr. Yun Feng? Aha. We are the officials of the Yanhuan Alliance's Beijing University. May I ask if Mr. Yun Feng is interested in enrolling? As far as we know, you have not chosen an academy at this time. Hearing this, Yun Feng's face was filled with question marks. He could wipe out his family and go to college? Chapter 17, Control, Seduction, Enslavement, Poisoning. On second thought, though, I do seem to lack a lot of knowledge. Going to a college seems like something he should do at this stage. But Yun Feng always felt strange. Seeing Yun Feng fall silent, the tone on the opposite side was also eager. Lord Yun Feng, if you don't want to be a trainee, you can come to the tutors and professors, or even the principal. Yun Feng was perplexed when he heard this. However, these were not what Yun Feng was more concerned about. Listening to the eager tone from the opposite side, Yun Feng slowly said, Is that how you invite people? The other party fell into a moment of silence after hearing Yun Feng's words. How else could it be an invitation if not this way? But it was a good thing that his brain was still sharp and he reacted quickly. Yun Feng was asking for favors. Actually, he couldn't be blamed. After all, Yun Feng's combat prowess could easily make others think of him as that kind of respected and well-established senior, ignoring the fact that Yun Feng was still a newbie. Right. Look at this brain of mine. I'm too excited. Mr. Yun Feng student, as long as you come over here, tuition will be waived. Scholarships will be $30 million per year. And a detached villa. Of course that's not all. The car is optional. The school's energy supplies and the latest research products are available to you on a priority basis. Heavenly materials and treasures of your choice. And even the academy can arrange for a few girls to accompany you if you have the need. In short, you can ask for whatever you want, and the academy will do its best to fulfill you. Yun Feng instantly snapped out a laugh after hearing this. Are you serious or are you joking? If you're joking, I'm going to get mad. Yun Feng wasn't at all afraid of what others might think of him. After all, he had only summoned Lin Dong, that monstrous greatness, and if he wanted to hit himself, he definitely had to weigh it. Lord Yun Feng student, I'm definitely not joking. This is the conclusion that our academy's senior management has come to after discussion. As long as you're willing to come over, anything will do. Although Yun Feng was incredibly moved. After all, he didn't know what he was going to do now. Although it was possible to dive into cultivation, such a life would be too boring. As for the life of the academy, Yun Feng was still more or less yearning for it. Only Yun Feng did not agree to come down directly. He had a few things to do, and when he was done, he would come back to this matter. It could be, but let me think about it first. After saying that, Yunfeng directly hung up the phone. Only the man on the other side of the phone was left in the wind. And the man had a whole bunch of people sitting around him by now. After hearing the phone hang up, everyone's eyes changed and became incredibly eager, looking at the man impatiently. How's that? How's that? Did Yunfeng promise? The man's head went rigid, and upon hearing the question, he mechanically turned his head and directly released the interface of his cell phone to the crowd. He said he'd have to think about it. As soon as those words came out, some of the old men couldn't hold back any longer. Consider for a long time. You may be poached by other academies. Is there anyone who accompanied Lao Fu to invite Yunfeng over? The old man's words caused many people to extremely agree. And for a moment, they raised their hands and shouted, I'll go. I'm going too. Such a genius. It would be a shame to miss out on it. And to stabilize our academy's #1 ranking, Yunfeng's arrival is a must. And we must move fast. It's really too late to repent in case it's cut off by another school. Yunfeng did not realize at this moment how much of an impact his strike had had on this world. Not only Aquamarine, including the foreign races on the other side of the black hole, all looked at Yunfeng with incomparable solemnity as he struck out. If this sun is not removed, he will become a future danger. Which one of you is going to fix it? All of the Fey leaders looked at me and I looked at you, but none of them dared to step forward. There was even a tacit agreement to take a step back, causing the leader of the Fey, for some reason, to feel nothing but a pang of heartache. What a bunch of people. But as commander-in-chief, he had to steady himself. This you don't go. He doesn't go. Nobody goes. And all that awaits us then is slaughter. Have you forgotten the man from 20 years ago? When these words came out, all the Fey were silent. Seeing that the effect was achieved, the commander-in-chief also continued. And we don't have just one way to kill it, do we? Control, seduce, enslave, poison. Anyway, no matter what method is used, if you can take him in, take him in. And if you can't, scrap him. Do you understand? This time there was no backing down inside the alien race. They just nodded silently. Seeing that they had finally realized the seriousness of the problem, the leader of the foreign race then breathed a little sigh of relief, looking at the black hole suspended in the air, then at the abyss behind him. Everyone was silent, as opposed to the influence of the outside world. Yunfeng was also back inside the city at this time. Looking at the city at this moment, Yunfeng was speechless for a long time. The city had been pretty much destroyed. The Alliance's army and also the rescue teams were all looking over the ruins at the moment to see if there were any residents left behind. And Yunfeng just sighed and didn't say anything, walking down the familiar and unfamiliar streets until you come to the downstairs of the rental house. Thankfully, the building was not destroyed in the midst of the war. After Yunfeng returned home and looked at everything around him, Yunfeng didn't have any fluctuations. Maybe a day ago, he might have been dying at this time. But who knew that life's encounters were so outrageous? After taking out his storage ring, he poured out all the heavenly materials inside. After doing so, Yunfeng also took out the Psychic 5 Emperor's money and the stellar energy coins that were placed on a string on top of his neck. Looking at the Psychic 5 Emperor's money that had dulled quite a bit, Yunfeng did not hesitate for a second. Directly utilizing the power of Qi, he absorbed and replenished all of these heavenly treasures in front of him within the Psychic 5 Emperor's money. In Yunfeng's opinion, this was the most important treasure on his body. After all, it can change your luck, condense your momentum, and save your life. It's not comparable to anything else at all. Of course his skills don't count. After getting this done, looking at the Psychic 5 Emperor's money that was re-emitting its light, Yunfeng then settled down. There was something about the Psychic 5 Emperor's money, but Yunfeng hadn't even told Bai Nuai about it, although Pak Noi had already sworn an oath. But with a skill like his own being able to appear, hell knows if there are any old sixes in this world that happen to be able to restrain themselves. So this life-preserving stuff, Yunfeng wouldn't dare to say it out freely. However, just as Yunfeng reattached his necklace, he discovered the elven dragon eggs that were poured out together. Chapter 18 Conceptual Technique. The person who wants to say hello to you will surely rotate 360 degrees. For this elf dragon egg, Yunfeng did not have a great interest in it. Just as Xiang Xiaotian said, this thing could not hatch. Although extremely valuable, it is a holy relic of the elves. But not being able to play a role was waste on Yunfeng's side. After thinking about it for a while, Yunfeng still put it away. After casually finding something to eat inside the house, the new repairs began. The day passed quickly. In the middle of the night, Yunfeng opened his eyes directly when he had just turned the clock. Listening to the shouts and noises outside, Yunfeng knew that they were the sounds made by the people who were cleaning up the traces of the aftermath of the battle. Yunfeng smiled faintly and did not say anything. Just the intention came to the sea of consciousness, feeling the changes inside the body in detail. It's also a way to verify that your abilities will continue to be refreshed. Let's see if it's as Noibai asked. Those who want to say hello to you will surely spin 600 degrees. After determining his skills, Yunfeng didn't even know what to say for a while. What kind of skill is this girl? Even with Yunfeng's many years of experience as a net bookworm, he couldn't think of a good way to develop it for a while. What's the point of spinning? After thinking hard for half a second, Yunfeng finally gave up. This time, the concept technique seems to exist passively, because just now, Yunfeng tried it in the mirror and realized that his body involuntarily started to turn directly, completely out of your control. Don't even trigger it on your own accord, and the consumption is completely negligible. But the existence of this one also validates the thing that the stronger the skill one refreshes, the fewer times one can use it. After figuring out his skills, Yunfeng also just thought that he had gotten a rather wasteful skill and didn't take it to heart. Just refresh it tomorrow. As for the Qingtian dragon transformation decision, Yunfeng did not intend to continue cultivating it. After all, this technique was biased towards body refining, and without the relative resources, forcing it to be cultivated would only result in half the result with twice the effort, which was not worth it at all. The origin that Lin Dong had left behind was not used in such a way to nourish the body. It is best to have food supplements and heavenly herbs. Moreover, after experiencing so many things in the past 2 days, Yunfeng was also planning to have a good night's sleep. However, just as Yunfeng had just laid down, he heard a sudden crashing sound from inside his house. Yunfeng immediately stood up, only to see that inside the originally empty room, a gecko man had suddenly manifested, and in his hand was a weapon crafted from teeth that emanated an unsettling aura. Yunfeng instantly recognized the other party when he saw them. This was the hidden wall race within the 100,000 foreign races. The human netizens even affectionately nicknamed them the In Coin clan. This phase special ability is invisibility, which is almost hard to detect, and the ability to blend in with all of nature's surroundings. Yunfeng had naturally seen each other in textbooks. I just didn't expect it to show up inside my room and make a noise. That's not right, right? The Hidden Wall clan. Each and every one of them was a superior assassin, and it was impossible to make such a low-level mistake. Just when Yunfeng was puzzled, the lizardman's eyes were already filled with fear inside at that moment, because he realized that his body was completely out of his control. At an extremely slow speed it began to spin, so slow that he wouldn't even notice it if it weren't for his own body. As for Yunfeng, when he saw that the other party was slow to make a move, he was immediately puzzled. What are you doing here? Gecko Man was on the verge of crying out at this point, shouting at Yunfeng. What kind of sorcery did you use? Why did my body start spinning involuntarily? Yunfeng instantly thought of the skill he had just refreshed after hearing this. Fixing his eyes, Yunfeng did notice that the Gecko Man body in front of him seemed to be really rotating here at an extremely slow speed. Yunfeng was instantly happy. Yeah, are conceptual skills that easy? Who says spinning has to be at normal speed? And just at this time, an early warning suddenly appeared within Yunfeng's heart, and subconsciously glanced outside the window, only to see a flyman with 6 pairs of wings, coming towards him at an extremely fast speed. When Yunfeng saw this, he also realized that he couldn't hide. Straight away, he pulled out his weapon and was ready to fight for a moment, but then he saw that fly shouting, Yunfeng, your life is mine, _angle, _. Boom. The flyman didn't even come in before he crashed right on top of the building's wall. Just moments after calling out his name, Yunfeng saw that the flyman's body then began to spin violently and uncontrollably. The speed of that one was so fast that it even only allowed Yunfeng to see a remnant of it. The flyman, who had lost control of his body, could not control his direction under the effect of inertia, so he did not hit Yunfeng as expected. Instead, he ran himself over. The gecko people had thought that they were saved, and the glimmer of hope that had just been kindled was silenced for a while after seeing their teammates so much. No wonder it's one of the bottom races. It's just garbage. When Yunfeng heard the curse, he also turned his head to look at the gecko man, who at this moment was still slowly rotating, and had not even completed a single turn. Yunfeng smiled before saying the same. Your race doesn't seem to be much higher, does it? Yunfeng held the green Vine 1000 machines, and with a thought, he directly changed into a machete, then cut off his tail as the gecko man watched. But that wasn't the end of it. Yunfeng, who had cut off, actually continued at the gecko man. Hurry up and grow your tail out or I'll just kill you. The gecko man was completely dumbfounded at this point, looking at Yunfeng as if he was looking at a demon. Human, you dare to humiliate me like this? You'll get what's coming to you. Oh, and do you grow a tail? After seeing the brightly shining large knife come to his neck, the gecko man was instantly honest. Long, as many tails as your lordship needs, I can grow them for your lordship. Only your lordship, when you are cutting, remember to be quick. That one hurt. Yunfeng laughed after seeing how quickly he changed his face. Yunfeng wasn't doing it for these gecko tails either. After all, although this thing was worth a lot of money, it was for Yunfeng, who had just received a huge compensation payment. It's literally a drop in the bucket. He did this solely to see what he could learn inside the books and wanted to experience it himself. After slicing off a dozen tails in a row, the gecko man was also incredibly weak at this point, and this time the speed of the long tail was already similar to that of a snail. Can't even go on halfway through the length. Seeing how difficult it was, and after learning from the textbook himself, Yunfeng resolved this gecko man directly with a single slash. It was impossible to let go. After all, the other party was planning to kill himself. Chapter 19. Why are we suddenly spinning? The fact that these foreign races were able to come to the door was something that Yunfeng had thought about, but it didn't occur to me that the other side would actually send some rookies over. This was something that Yunfeng hadn't expected. One couldn't move and the other directly crashed to death. Yunfeng couldn't even be bothered to say anything. Shouldn't they send some of the more powerful bigwigs after they've seen what they can do? Of course Yunfeng wasn't the type of person who had to seek death. He was just very incomprehensible. In fact, what Yunfeng didn't know was that the Gecko Man and the Fly Man were still very powerful within their respective races. Only one was immobilized by Yunfeng's concept technique, and his strength could not be utilized at all. And the other one can be seen from the speed of his flight. The strength is very strong. That is to say, after being hit by Yunfeng's conceptual technique, the spiritual energy inside his body directly stopped functioning the moment he was hit. Originally a race that specialized in speed, the physical body, while not too weak, was definitely not strong either. And in the midst of that high-speed movement, it lost its spiritual protection. Running over is kind of an odd way to die, but it was also this performance that made Yunfeng feel that his opponent was weak. However, the fact that the foreign races came to the door did cause Yunfeng's inner vigilance to be pulled up a lot. After all, he didn't have any great fighting ability right now, and there are so many strange abilities of the Fae that it's hard to defend against them. Now that Bai Nuai had gone into seclusion, it was still necessary to find a power to cling to, at least until he was absolutely strong enough to defend himself. There was no harm in being careful, and now Yunfeng had two choices. One is to join the league and the other is the academy. In fact, for Yunfeng, no matter which one it was the superior choice. It was only the fact that the current alliance did not take the initiative to recruit Yunfeng that made Yunfeng more puzzled. According to common sense, when such a counterintuitive bigot appeared inside the alliance, even if they didn't recruit him, they should at least have a good relationship. It shouldn't be this cold. Yunfeng couldn't figure out why this was. On the other hand, if the academy side, it gave a lot of things, and it was more sincere if compared to the alliance. So Yunfeng's inclination was still more on the side of the academy. After thinking about this, Yunfeng also decided. But when he woke up the next morning, Yunfeng suddenly realized that there seemed to be a lot more blood inside his house. Yunfeng, who realized that something was wrong, hurriedly checked up the surroundings. But it doesn't matter if you don't check it out. When you do, you go straight down, only to see a dense, uncountable number of Fae standing around his bed, blades or claws raised. All of them were aimed at Yunfeng, but one of them stayed in place without the slightest movement. And in the middle of these foreigners, there were many more that had turned into foaming meat. The picture was so disgusting that it almost made Yunfeng unable to stand it and spit it out directly. But soon Yunfeng realized what was going on. It must be that while he was sleeping, these foreigners came to kill him with his name on their minds inside. Yet subconsciously it was judged to be a greeting. So that's why this was forced to rotate 3,600 degrees. However, these ones that were controlled in place, Yunfeng could still understand. But those that turned into meat foam, Yunfeng, however, was very confused. And in order to solve the confusion, Yunfeng also asked directly, "Do you know how they died?" Seeing Yunfeng finish killing people and controlling them in place, and acting as if he didn't know anything, a chill couldn't help but chill from his spine to his brain. "Demon! You demon! Killing them and deliberately coming to ask us? You're going to hell!" Yunfeng tugged at the corner of his mouth as he looked at the foreigner in front of him who had a pair of horns and bat wings on his back. That said, "You're the demon. What does it mean to call me a demon? If you guys don't say anything, then I'm going to do it." After saying that, Yunfeng took out the green vine thousand machines, which directly changed into a long sword, then casually waved it a few times, cutting off the hands of the demon race in front of him. The intense pain, for a moment, made this demon race completely scared. He didn't want to die. It was not easy for him to cultivate to the 6th rank of the demon race. If he died at this time, wouldn't his efforts over the years be wasted? Although he wasn't sure exactly what Yunfeng meant, he said quickly, "They were spun to death by you, my lord. After getting close to you, my lord, they spun around 10 times at a speed of 0.0000001 seconds. spinning themselves right into a froth of meat. Yunfeng was also a bit dumbfounded after hearing this. Are you that lucky? His own concept technique today was a passive skill that he had absolutely no control over. Why he was facing these foreigners who had a murderous intent towards him. The revs are either extremely slow or extremely fast, and now they're spinning yourself right to death. Is one's luck that good? After thinking of this, Yunfeng subconsciously touched the psychic 5 emperor's money under his clothes and instantly realized what was going on. Yes, oh, one's own chi is now added. If you want to kill yourself, I'm afraid it's a bit difficult. Oh, Yunfeng, who understood all this, his eyes instantly became unkind. Looking at the many foreigners in front of him, he revealed an evil smile. If you want to live you can. Hand over all your treasures. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll let you go. After hearing these words, these demon clans opened their mouths. My lord, all my belongings are within earshot. My lord, mine is inside the tail. My lord, mine's in my underwear. Kaching dash. Yunfeng darkened his face and frowned. Who's a nice guy, hiding his treasure inside his underwear? Just damn it. After collecting the treasures of these foreign races, Yunfeng also nodded in satisfaction. Then, in the midst of the expectant gazes of these foreigners, Yunfeng ignored all the abuse and took one sword at a time for good measure. It was only a short while before the kill was done, and at that exact moment, Yunfeng also noticed a few old men standing outside the open door of the room. After looking at Yunfeng's operation and the appearance of these demons, they were all dumbfounded. 6th ranked demons, 7th ranked foxes, and 8th and 9th ranked bears and dark elves. Actually killing them is like killing a chicken. Lord Yunfeng. But really, why did I suddenly start spinning? A group of several people, after seeing Yunfeng, began to spin and jump involuntarily, and Yunfeng's eyes went blind when he saw this scene. A bunch of middle-aged and older people stranded to give him a spin. But the good thing is that the other side's RPMs are all extremely normal, and there's nothing extremely fast or slow about them. Otherwise, Yunfeng really didn't know how to get it. His concept technique at this point is not disarming as such. It's got to be done, and that's what's going to stop it. Just as these people finished their 10 laps, they looked at Yunfeng and just wanted to speak. Then it spun again. Chapter 20. The big man likes to pretend to be a newcomer, so let him pretend. Yunfeng was dumbfounded. Together with his passive techniques, there was no cooldown. He just needs to go to the group of people who know his name. And it's a group control skill. As soon as the other person thinks of their name, they are subconsciously recognized as wanting to say hello. It's simply not too buggy. Seeing such a situation, Yunfeng also hurriedly inquired, "What do you want with me?" Yunfeng didn't want these old men in front of him to turn dead in front of him. It wasn't revving fast or slow now, but the crowd across the street was still shouting, "Yunfeng student lord, it's me I Qingbei admissions office, before and you threw the phone. Did not determine your opinion? So that's why this is under Dean's leadership, to find you." Yunfeng was also more curious when he heard this. "Where's your Dean?" As the man spun, he pointed to the old man next to him. "This is our Dean, Levi Kong." Li Weigang was also more or less terrified at this time. Having been in the Saint realm himself, I can't believe it's being controlled. And the person controlling them, without even thinking about it, was the Yunfeng in front of him. After all, other than Yunfeng, there was no one else over here with this kind of ability. "Old man Li Weigang, Elder Yun, we didn't mean to disturb you. May I ask if you can help us unlock this spinning restriction?" Yunfeng didn't know what to say better after hearing this. Thinking about his concept technique, he finally shook his head. "This is not something I can control. Unless you don't think my name inside you, it will keep spinning and it won't stop until the end of the day." Yunfeng's words directly thundered the crowd to the outside. After all, they had never heard of this kind of ability before. However, looking at Yunfeng's eyes also did not speak, and even extraordinarily sincere. For a time, the hearts of the crowd were as if they had suffered a lightning strike. The person was standing right in front of them. How could they not think about Yunfeng's name? And that's how it is with people. The less you think about it, the deeper the memories inside your head become. That's why they keep spinning. Just when the crowd thought there was nothing they could do, Levi just got rid of the spinning restriction and returned to normal. But the face became calm. "That XX Senior, I wouldn't want you to. I came over here because I sincerely want to invite Senior to join our academy. Whatever the conditions, we can accept them." Yunfeng, who heard this, did not answer directly, but instead inquired with incomparable curiosity, "How did you get out of my grip?" Levi just pulled the corner of his mouth, then said directly, "My superpower is a Class B superpower, spirit purification, and I purified my predecessor's distractions in my mind. But even then, I can barely keep my superpowers from collapsing, and as for helping others, I can't do that right now." Yunfeng pulled the corner of his mouth. "Dean Li, Aren't you at the saint level? Levi just wanted to spit after hearing that too. Of course he knew he was in the saint realm. But hell if he knew what kind of force this was. Even the saint realm couldn't stop it. He even had to rely on his superpower to dilute Yunfeng's name and impression, which was only slightly able to resist. The magnitude of Senior's greatness is not something my saints can resist. After hearing this, Yunfeng didn't want to say anything, just a serious gaze. I'm not a senior. I'm just a budding superpowered person on the third day of awakening. If Li Weigang hadn't read Yunfeng's profile, he might have really believed it. Yunfeng, X-rated conceptual god, talking to them about this? Really think he's an old codger who doesn't know anything? It was just that what he hadn't expected was that the impact of Yunfeng's concept was actually so great, and there seems to be a bit of a problem with the skills as well. It's not like the official website registers above that you get $1 for every time you go to the bathroom. Of course these things, he wouldn't break the mold. Senior is joking. On the path of cultivation, the one who achieves is the first. It's only right to call you senior. Seeing that the other party was like this, Yunfeng didn't want to continue pulling it off. It's fine to join the academy, but I need to have a lot of autonomy in addition to the knowledge I'm learning. And you can't interfere with me. And all the conditions promised to me have to be realized. After all, I still quite need resources to cultivate. I'm a weakling munchkin. When these words came out, not only Li Weigang, but also the teachers who were still spinning around in the back. Weak chicken and newbie. These two words, where did they relate to Yunfeng? On the second day of his awakening, he decimated a city of invading foreigners and wiped out a race. On the third day of awakening, the foreign races that came to assassinate all lost their ability to resist. And in Yunfeng's hands, it was simpler than killing a chicken. And those foreigners who came to assassinate, as far as they could observe, there wasn't a single one below the 6th rank. The ones that were awakened at the same time as Yunfeng were still familiarizing themselves with their powers. That's what you call a weakling and a munchkin, alright. However, they didn't dare to say these words in front of Yunfeng. After all, this world is still about fists. Whoever has the biggest fist is the truth. The big guy likes to pretend to be a budgie. So let him. It's done when people like yourself cooperate. Levi just agreed to do it faster still. Of course, as long as you're here, whatever you ask for can be granted. Welcome to the great home of the Clear North. I wonder, Senior, what identity do you plan to use to join the academy? When Yunfeng heard this, a trace of doubt flashed inside his eyes. What identity? What identity could I possibly have? Dean, professor, teacher, cadet, whatever you want. Yunfeng said directly after pondering for a while. Professor it is then. And Dean, forget it. Not taking your position away. Li Weigang nodded. At this moment, Yunfeng's promise was more important than anything else. Then, Senior, when do you plan on traveling to the academy? Yunfeng took a look at the environment of the rental house and sighed slightly after remembering those classmates of his in Lu Ruyan. Just for now. There's nothing to bring here. We'll just go straight. Although it wasn't time for school to start yet, Yunfeng also wanted a change of scenery. After all, this environment was not the slightest bit memorable for him. Seeing Yunfeng do so, the crowd was naturally excited. This kind of genius could be considered to have come to their academy. Not to mention anything else, fame alone could already bring in an unknown amount of revenue for the academy. Not to mention Yunfeng's strength and potential. As I said before, this world is still about strength. And it is only when you are strong that no one dares to yell at you. Being in charge of the power of life and death. With Yunfeng around, the security of the academy would be greatly improved. Also, there will be more care on the league side. It's a solid deal any way you look at it. Chapter 21, Lord Yunfeng. Ruyan Lu has disappeared. Yunfeng certainly knows what the other party is thinking, but higher than you will not care about these things. After all, the world is supposed to be a giant exchange, and it's not that innocent in there. It's your talent that's the best bargaining chip. Well, we're off now. Li Weigang said 3 good words in a row, clearly illustrating his mood at this time. After saying this, without the slightest hesitation, Li Weigang directly took out a flying car from inside his storage ring. Then pulling Yunfeng, he went straight up. As for the rest of the teachers, Li Weigang hadn't decided to bring them along after thinking about it for a while. After all, these teachers could still be influenced by Yunfeng. If you sit in the car with it, you might have to have an accident. And it's not a thing to keep spinning like that in the car. So that's why the crowd was left behind. Then right after Yunfeng got on board, the sides of the vehicle directly unfolded their steel wings and rushed into the sky. And the moment Yunfeng and Levi had just left, those teachers who had been spinning around before came to a direct halt. And Li Weigang, who saw this scene, couldn't help but be shocked at this moment. Is this what's called a conceptual god? Seeing Li Weigang like this, Yunfeng also smiled. It's not that dramatic. It's not that dramatic. Li Weigang also knew that there were some things that could not be asked casually. After all, everyone had secrets that belonged to them. It was that for some reason, the ability that Yun Feng used was completely different from when he was awakened. That's what led him to be a little curious. Yun Feng naturally knew what the other party was thinking, only this thing Yun Feng did not dare to talk nonsense off. Hell, I don't know when it randomizes him to a very weak concept tech. Exposure is risky. Except, of course, for Noi Bai, the one who swore an oath. So in response, Yun Feng just smiled and did not say much, just as Yun Feng followed Levi just as he left Star City. Inside the prison, Ruyan Lu looked at the news that was broadcast on top of the TV at this moment. For a moment it froze outright. Yun Feng is actually really the one who saved the entire Star City, and he even annihilated a foreign race. Looking at Yun Feng's appearance when he was being interviewed, he also looked at the Alliance reporter's public query of Yun Feng's superpower level showing that it was X rank. Even after overriding the SSS rank, Ruyan Lu already didn't know what was better to say. A scene from the past where she and Yun Feng spent time together surfaced inside her mind, and at this moment, she only felt an incomparable sourness within her heart. The tears were even more unstoppable. Thinking back to the day of his awakening, he had directly approached Xiang Kaishan after determining that Yun Feng was really an F-rank superpower. Even sneering at Yun Feng, Lu Ruyan only felt a chill run through her body. Not that there was much regret. People go up, water goes down. She, Lu Ruyan, would never be able to follow someone else and suffer, even if that person was someone she liked more than anything else. This is why he decisively betrayed Yun Feng. But who knew that Yun Feng had transformed so quickly and had risen to prominence all of a sudden? A little slower and Ruyan Lu might not even be so upset. After all, a slower rise could be an achievement that Yun Feng had achieved only after he had defied the odds and worked hard. But it had only been a day and Yun Feng had become so strong. It would mean only one thing, and that was that she was looking the other way. He even framed Yun Feng together with Xiang Kaishan, make it impossible to get into the safe house. Now that she thought about this matter, Ruyan Lu was incomparably regretful, especially after seeing where he was and comparing it to Yun Feng's achievements. This gap became even more obvious. Actually, Ruyan Lu thought a little bit wrong. After Yun Feng awakened and Xiang Kaishan came to his rented room and said that Lu Ruyan had slept with him, Yun Feng was completely dead. 3 years of time, 3 years of being together, and in the end that's all you get in return. Not willing to wait even a day longer, the more she watched the top of the news report, the more tortured Ruyan Lu's heart became. The thought of not being able to enjoy the good life she had imagined after missing out on Yun Feng made her more and more sad. Tears continued to flow from the corners of his eyes, but at the same time, the resentment towards Yun Feng also grew deeper and deeper. Wouldn't it have been easier to tell her earlier? Would she have betrayed Yun Feng if she had told her earlier? Even if she betrayed, she just made a mistake that any woman would make. Can't she be forgiven? Must she be sent to prison? And then there's that Bai Noi, using her authority to keep her from going out and seducing her man. The more he thought about it, the harder it became, until Ruyan Lu couldn't take it anymore and let out a loud cry, smashing things inside the cell. The prison guards guarding Ruyan Lu, after seeing Ruyan Lu like this, could not help but let out a snort. "You're still crying. You shameless, you're crying over here." The moment these words came out, it directly made Lu Ruyan completely break her defense. Only before Lu Ruyan could retort, a circle of light directly surfaced around Lu Ruyan. In the next second, under the watchful eyes of the prison guards, Ruyan Lu's figure directly disappeared in place. This turn of events left the prison guards dumbfounded. For a moment, they didn't know what to do, and hurriedly opened the door of the cell, and after carefully checking it over, they realized that Ruyan Lu was really missing. That's when he panicked and rushed to report it. Not long after, Yun Feng, who was sitting on top of the flying car, soon received a call. "Lord Yun Feng, Ruyan Lu has disappeared." Yun Feng, who had heard this, frowned. "What's going on?" And the person on the other side of the phone quickly told Yun Feng all about what happened inside the prison. After Yun Feng heard this, he also rubbed his brow, then said directly, "Just run away. It's fine." Seeing that Yun Feng did not pursue anything, the person on the other side also thanked him before hanging up the phone, and Li Weigang, who was sitting next to Yun Feng, also directly inquired after hearing these words, "Your disgusting ex-girlfriend ran away?" Yun Feng nodded. After all, Yun Feng's deeds could not be hidden, especially after becoming famous. Yun Feng's deeds, big and small, were unearthed. The entire alliance was relatively clear about Yun Feng's deeds. That's where Levi just learned about it. Seeing Yun Feng like this, Li Weigang thought that Yun Feng was grieving. Immediately, he said directly, "Hey you're still young. It's no big deal. And with your strength, if that girl runs away, won't you just get her back? What a big deal." Yun Feng, who had heard this, almost laughed outright. That's not what I care about. What I care about is how the other person can suddenly disappear. After all, the prison side has something that blocks superpowers. Chapter 22 The Ancient Temple Hidden in the Earth. Yunfeng's words also made Li Weigang realize something. The frown instantly became tight. Seems like that's what's going on when you think about it. Immediately, he inquired directly. And do you know who else is in this girl's family? Did her family get her out? Yunfeng also said directly after hearing this. There's no one inside Ruyan Lu's house. I heard that her parents disappeared when they went to explore the alien site in the first place. Life and death unknown. It shouldn't be them. In that case, you don't have to think too much. Even if the other party runs away, is it possible that they can still deal with you? Yunfeng thought about it carefully. With so many treasures added to one's body, as long as one cultivates diligently, any plotting and scheming will be useless. And you get to refresh a concept technique every day yourself. Who can deal with him? Provided, of course, that there are no waves. I see. Dean, how long before we get there? Levi just smiled, then pointed at the grand and towering building in the distance and said directly, that's our academy. Yunfeng sniffed and directly put his eyes over. The high-rise buildings are imposing, with a futuristic appearance as if they were made of technological elements stacked on top of each other. The entire building resembles a castle with a grand main entrance and plaza with marble floors reflecting the dazzling light. And when the speeder entered the interior of the academy, the first thing that caught his eye was the towering atrium, which was topped by a huge glass canopy that allowed sunlight to pour through the glass roof and onto every inch of the atrium. Dean, this is too rich for our academy. Hearing Yunfeng's sentiment, Li Weigang smiled faintly before saying, that's nothing, I'll show you around further. So under Li Weigang's leadership and explanation, Yunfeng also had a general understanding and feeling. The atrium is the main meeting and communication place in the college, with many flowers and leafy greenery, making you feel like you are in a natural forest. After passing through the atrium, you can reach the various academic buildings, which are well laid out, with one building hosting each of the different disciplines, each of which has its own institutes, laboratories, and offices for the professors. The classrooms inside each building are equipped with state-of-the-art teaching equipment, all of which can be turned on automatically with the swipe of a card. The restaurant in the college is stylishly designed and offers a wide range of delicious and healthy food. Inside the restaurant is a smart service. Just through the computer screen to order and pay for the dishes. The restaurant trolley will automatically transport the food to the table, for the students to bring the convenience and food double enjoyment. All in all, this academy is a perfect blend of high technology and natural beauty, both in terms of its external environment and internal facilities, making it the perfect place for visual enjoyment. After reading it, Yunfeng also couldn't help but sigh that he really didn't seem to have come to the wrong place. Seeing Yunfeng so satisfied, Li Weigang did not stop. There's still one of the best places that I haven't taken you to yet, so you can feel the vibe. After saying that, Levi just drove the flying car once again and slowly flew towards the interior of the academy. Along the way, Yunfeng also saw quite a few trainees and teachers saluting at them. There was a hint of admiration inside his eyes. Dean, it seems like you're still quite respected inside the academy. Levi Gang smiled bashfully after hearing this. That's not true, at least I'm a saint, or their dean. It's normal to be respected. Seeing Li Weigang like this, Yunfeng also smiled. Soon, under Li Weigang's leadership, Yunfeng arrived in front of a glistening white building, and the moment the flying car came to a stop, the building automatically opened up. There were even a few mechanical arms sticking out directly from inside, directly adjusting the flying car under Yunfeng's gaze. Then the ground unfolded a mechanical door, and under the action of the mechanical arm, Yunfeng watched as the flying car was directly dragged in. ******* Dean. What's going on with this college? It's a little too advanced. Levi just smiled. After all, the place we're traveling to next is very important. Seeing that Li Weigang was such a picture of secrecy, Yunfeng's inner curiosity was also aroused. What the hell kind of place is it? You'll see when we get there. Yunfeng, who was sitting inside the flying car, only felt that his body was descending and soon stopped. Along with the opening of the door, what met Yunfeng's eyes was clearly an ancient temple. The eaves are high and the glazed tiles glow in the light. Under the eaves, the flying arches are skillfully carved. Looking solemn, the vermilion gate was inlaid with copper nails that swayed gently in the wind. After getting down from the car, Levi Gang also said directly, "Shocking, isn't it?" Yunfeng subconsciously nodded his head. A building that existed under the ground was indeed shocking. This is the book depository. Just because we use our superpowers doesn't mean we can't cultivate feats. After all, we all cultivate Reiki. While the ancient temple in front of us hides books of feats from the ancient times. After hearing this, Yunfeng was also greatly shocked. Come on, let's go inside. Yun Feng also nodded subconsciously before following Li Weigang and walking straight over. As soon as he entered the book depository, he could smell the faint scent of ink and the rustling sound of pages turning. The surrounding bookshelves were filled with a wide array of books, all sorts of canonical feats and techniques. Each book was carefully ensconced on a rosewood shelf, its spine glittering with gold leaf and neatly lettered. In the center of the book depository, an antique tie-shirt chair was quietly placed in front of the desk. On the table, the 4 treasures neatly arranged: rice paper, brushes, ink and ink slabs, waiting for the literati to splash ink. In a corner of the book depository, there was also a small tea room, with several bamboo chairs surrounding a sandalwood tea table, on which were placed exquisite tea sets. Nice setting. After hearing this, Li Weigang also nodded with extreme satisfaction. That's for sure. It's the backbone of our entire academy. Generally speaking, only successive deans and those who have received a license are allowed in. Yun Feng also nodded at his words. So Dean, what did you bring me here for? Li Weigang also had a serious look on his face after Yun Feng finished saying this. Yun Feng, can I trust you? Yun Feng was directly confused by this question. However, looking at Li Weigang's serious face, he finally said helplessly, honestly, I think it's best if you don't trust me, Dean. After all, we've only known each other for a day. It's too soon to say no to belief. Li Weigang didn't expect Yun Feng to be this answer, and immediately let out a bitter laugh as well. You're right, but I have no choice but to believe you because I'm dying. Chapter 23, The Underground Alien God King. After Li Weigang's words, Yun Feng directly froze. Dean, you're joking again. You're a saint. Seeing Yun Feng in this state, Li Weigang also reluctantly smiled, a trace of remorse flashing inside his eyes. It would be nice if I were joking, but I'm telling the truth, Levi just said while directly pulling his clothes up. Under Yun Feng's gaze, he only saw that there was actually a fist-sized hole in Li Weigang's chest, and the hole was surrounded by bizarre patterns. These lines took on a black color, spreading towards Li Weigang's entire body. If it wasn't for the clothes covering them, outsiders would have realized something was wrong by now. After all, the bizarre black streak was about to reach Li Weigang's neck and palms. Yun Feng didn't know why, but he always felt that the next topic would be extremely heavy, and to be honest, Yun Feng wasn't very willing to listen. After all, within the novels of the previous life, this represented one trouble after another. Must be another last wish or something, but after looking at Li Weigang's eyes, Yun Feng still sighed. What's going on? After recalling a bit, Li Weigang sat down on a side tea seat and looked at Yun Feng and also said slowly, it's not really a swashbuckling thing. When the foreigners invaded my homeland and killed my family, and then in the back, in order to take revenge, and then the strength was not good, and I was beaten like this, so now I don't have much time to think about whether I want to believe this or not. Li Weigang's tone was very flat, and even made a pot of tea when he said this, but Yun Feng could feel the despondency inside Li Weigang's flat tone. So, what do you want to believe about me? After Yun Feng's words came out, there was an extra hint of surprise inside Li Weigang's eyes. Sit down first, and drink the tea I made. Yun Feng nodded slightly and took the tea that Li Wei just handed him and took a sip. Watching Levi just wasn't in a hurry. He just sat over here and began to appreciate the surroundings. Li Weigang was dumbfounded, not thinking that Yun Feng would actually be so composed, completely unlike what a teenager should be. I can't believe there's no reaction when you've thrown such a big thing out there yourself. This made Levi Gang feel a little helpless. Actually, I want you to do me a favor. Yun Feng did not agree or refuse, but only said slowly, tell me first, maybe I might help you if I'm interested, but not necessarily interested is all. Inside Yun Feng's vision, it was nothing more than helping him take revenge or something like that, and regarding revenge, not to mention whether Yun Feng could do it or not, even if he could, the time he had known Li Weigang was still too short. It's not even close to being a friend or anything else, so why would one go out and risk helping? This is clearly unrealistic. Li Weigang's eyes obviously dimmed a little when he saw Yun Feng's words, but he still spoke out his thoughts. In fact, I want you to help me subdue Qingbei Academy. Although Qingbei Academy is guarded by the Alliance, it doesn't really have any high-end combatants. That's why when the old man invited you, he promised out the position of dean. I'm dying and want someone to take over. What about you? As for my old man, I want to meet that Dementor demon again. The Dementor demon who killed my entire family, while I can still move. Although Li Weigang said kill with his mouth, it didn't make Yun Feng feel a trace of killing aura. There's just relaxation and relief. Yun Feng thought carefully and instantly realized what Li Weigang meant. Li Weigang is holding the determination of certain death, wanting to go to Dua. Yun Feng, who had heard this, was instead a little less savory. If Li Weigang had directly asked himself to go with him to take revenge, Yun Feng wouldn't even think about it and would definitely have refused. But now Levi just asked himself to guard the academy and be this so-called dean. It caused Yun Feng to be more or less at a loss for words. It's not something he wants to be, after all. It's a pain in the ass when you hear it. Seeing Yun Feng's furrowed brow, Li Weigang also continued. In fact, at the very beginning, the old man had already given up on the idea of revenge. After all, the academy can't be without a master for a day. Do you know that, Yun Feng? What? Why is there an ancient temple underground? Yun Feng instantly became bad after hearing this. You don't mean that there are still some monsters suppressed underneath this ancient temple, do you? Li Weigang was also filled with questions when he saw Yun Feng thinking so quickly, but after a few seconds, he nodded. Yes, there is a foreign race's god king suppressed underneath the ancient temple. That's why I don't dare to leave, until I saw your appearance. The idea of revenge. This rekindled. After seeing Levi just say this, Yun Feng instantly laughed a little. So you want to go and get yourself killed? Li Weigang's face was also a bit unsightly after being pointed out so bluntly by Yun Feng, but nodded anyway. The flame of revenge has been burning inside me for almost 50 years, and now that I see hope, I certainly don't want to let it go just like that. Yun Feng saw that Li Weigang had already made up his mind at this point. Immediately, he also sighed. But have you ever thought about the fact that I'm actually a watered-down product that can't suppress that so-called foreign god king underneath the academy at all? After all, I've only been awakened for a few days. Li Wei just subconsciously thought that Yun Feng was fooling himself, but after looking at Yun Feng's sincere gaze, he still fell silent. After a half-dozen moments, or so, he inquired with wistful expectation. Are you telling the truth? Yun Feng looked at the old man with white hair and beard in front of him and finally said slowly, My strength is very unstable. There are times when I may be strong, but there are times when I will be weak. Do you understand when I say that? Li Weigang saw that Yun Feng was being so serious. The whole essence of the man was gone in an instant. If what Yun Feng said was true, going to take revenge by himself would be abandoning the academy to extreme danger. It wasn't as if Li Weigang hadn't thought about finding other saints to hold down the fort, but where under the sky would there be so many saints? Every saint had their own territory to guard, so how could they possibly wear several hats? So that's not realistic either. After seeing that Yun Feng couldn't do it either, Li Weigang's eyes all seemed to be dead. It was only after a good half-long time that this slowed down, and the slightest bittersweet smile flowed from the corners of his mouth. God forbid. God forbid. Mom, Dad, little sister, Weigang has wronged you. I can't abandon the academy to avenge your deaths. Child is unfilial. Child is unfilial. Watching a saint like this, Yun Feng's heart was actually quite unfeeling. After pondering for a while, Yun Feng suddenly said, Dean, you just said Dementor, didn't you? Li Wei just subconsciously nodded his head when he heard Yun Feng's words. Yeah, why? Chapter 24 Wind and Thunder Steps. Yun Feng suddenly laughed, then said directly, Actually, Dean, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Maybe one day I'll become stronger, and then I'll just go for you. Yun Feng's words could be described as extremely sincere. After all, for him, as long as he refreshed a good concept technique, no matter what place it was, Yun Feng had the confidence to break into it. Press won't care about this stuff. Not wanting to before was simply not wanting to be used. Because of Lu Ruyan's previous lesson, it had already made Yun Feng profoundly realize the jaggedness of this world. But the Li Weigang in front of him was different. Not to mention the length of time they had known each other. The other party was willing to give up this blood feud for the sake of the academy, even wanting to guard it until the last moment of his life. The person in front of him deserved Yun Feng's respect. As for whether it was utilization or something else, Yun Feng's heart had a scale. He had familiarized himself with his abilities anyway. When the time comes, if it really is a scam, so who has the means to stop him when he incarnates in his homeland? When the time comes to retaliate back, what can Levi Kong say? So that's why the promise was made. The bottom line is that the Fae are supposed to be the enemy. Either way, the Fae are to be destroyed or domesticated. So the promise was made, and when the strength was strong, the annihilation of a clan would only be incidental. It was just as it was before when he transformed into Lindong, a clan that was destroyed at the drop of a hat. That boundless greatness. Even now, Yun Feng's heart was stirred every time he recalled it, and Li Weigang's eyes flashed with a bright light after hearing Yun Feng's. The whole person was no longer as disheveled as before. Although he didn't know why Yun Feng said that his strength was suddenly strong and weak, but as long as there was a glimmer of hope, at the end of his life, he would have been satisfied to learn that the Dementor had been killed. Of course Li Weigang did not expect Yun Feng to destroy a clan at once. After all, the soul-regenerating demons were not the same as the previous Green Vine clan. That's a real high-level race. However, just to make sure that it was true, Levi just carefully inquired, Did you mean what you said? Seeing Li Weigang like this, Yun Feng smiled bashfully and then said directly, Sure, Just not now is all. Levi had just now, no matter what time it was, seen a heavenly pride with such potential take the initiative to mention this matter. He couldn't be happier. He's kind of at the end of his road. There was also no such thing as progress or no progress. Even though he was a saint cultivation, he still didn't dare to face the soul-regenerating demon, so he knew how terrifying the other party was. As for Yunfeng still had infinite possibilities for growth. Even if you can't do it now, what about the future? As long as he didn't fall, Yunfeng's talent could definitely support him to stand at the very top of the pyramid. So how could this call Levi Kong not be excited? After taking a deep breath, Li Weigang looked at the young man in front of him and suddenly stood up, then took a step back and directly bowed 90 degrees to Yunfeng under his gaze. This great favor, old me, remember, if there is any use for old me in the future, there is no harm for you to speak. Yunfeng was all confused, and looking at Li Weigang like this, he was also crying and laughing. Dean, are you remembering wrongly? My current strength is not enough to help you avenge your death. Why are you performing this great gift? Get up. When Yunfeng said this, he also rushed forward to help Li Weigang up, but Li Weigang had a look of disbelief on his face. Even though you're not strong enough right now, you promised me, didn't you? If I don't curtsy now, I'm afraid I won't have this opportunity later. Yunfeng was also silent for a moment after hearing this. Thinking back to the large hole in Levi's chest, he didn't know what to say better for a while. Levigan's time does seem to be running out. Alright, let's not talk about this. I've only just joined the academy and you, Dean, have gotten me such a big assignment. It's really stressing me out. Li Weigang wasn't that kind of cutie either. After hearing Yunfeng's complaint, he also gave a bold laugh. Yunfeng, when I die, this academy is all yours. Do whatever you want. Even if you choose a concubine inside the academy, no one will interfere with you. What is this task to you? Yunfeng also joked when he saw Li Weigang, an old immodest man, say this. So Dean, have you ever chosen a consort? Hearing this, Li Weigang's entire eyes went wide and he said in a hurry, don't slander me. I don't have that kind of idea. I'm so old. I don't want to be victimized. Seeing Li Weigang in this state, the smirk in Yunfeng's eyes became even more pronounced. Dean, I just said that off the top of my head. Are you that scared? Or did you really do all that stuff? Li Weigang couldn't hold it in any longer, and immediately began to play dead straight away. No matter how much Yunfeng joked, he just didn't open his mouth. Seeing Li Weigang like this, Yunfeng also skimmed his lips and didn't continue. Instead, he wandered inside the book depository with interest. Just like what Levi had just said, there were not only countless feats here, but also many tomes that were unknown to the outside world. After strolling around for a long time, Yunfeng also picked out a pace feat, the Wind Thunder Step. There was no other choice after that. After all, he had the Qingtian Dragon Transformation Decision, which was much better than the stuff inside the book depository. After all, this world was still dominated by superpowers, and even if there were cultivation techniques, they were generally not highly developed enough. Yunfeng didn't want to waste his time by sacrificing his life. Go and study some unorthodox feats. After storing away the book of feats, Wind and Thunder Steps, Yunfeng also began to check up on some of the secrets of this world. After all, the more you know about something, the better you can know the nature of the world. Only after Yunfeng looked at it for a while, he realized that it was mostly secret stories and some truths about history. After memorizing it, Yunfeng also returned to the opposite side of Li Weigang. Oh Dean, I took a book on footwork. Should I be alright? Levi just smiled. You just don't have to spread this stuff around. Even if you take it all, it doesn't matter. Just return it when the time comes. Seeing Li Weigang like this, Yunfeng was truly able to sense that Li Weigang was seriously treating himself as the next dean. After all, Levi had just said, when he brought himself to this place, that it could only be entered by the dean and those with licensed qualifications. His own arrival has been opened up. Although the small stove was not that great for Yunfeng's enhancement is all,